Chapter 40-32. You're lying. Such a terrifying fiend actually pretended to be an expert at the peak of the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm. Wasn't he too good at pretending? It's your turn next. Lin Yi turned his head and smiled gently at them. Fuck. The long-haired man was so scared that his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. His face turned pale, and he hurriedly shouted at his subordinates, "Why are you still not running? Do you want to accompany that stupid hedgehog head down to feed the sea monster? I'm telling you, the center will avenge us." After saying that, the group of people hurriedly whipped the spirit birds under their feet and ran away at full speed. One of them lost his footing and fell directly into the sea. He was swallowed by the sea monster below, but they didn't care at all. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared before Lin Yi's eyes. The speed of this spirit beast is quite fast indeed. Lin Yi paused, not at all surprised. He'd wanted to kill them all in one go, but he didn't expect the mount to be this fast. What did he threaten us with before he left? What did he mean? But it didn't matter. He wasn't afraid that others would see his trick. They only saw Jing Tianjie's body and didn't see the power of Lin Yi's alchemic fire Jin Qi bomb. The bodies of the people killed by Lin Yi fell directly into the sea and were eaten by the sea monster. It was impossible for others to see them carefully, not to mention that Jing Tianjie's body was disguised by Lin Yi. However, before he left, the man threatened Lin Yi, but he didn't hear it clearly. That's natural. Spirit birds have always been known for their speed, but they can't carry as much weight as ordinary flying spirit beasts. Moreover, ordinary people can't control them, and the flight process is not stable enough, so it's not suitable for our Chamber of Commerce. Hong Zhong paused, and then said with concern, "I didn't hear it clearly, either. I guess they formed a group of interests. Young hero Lin, are you okay?" Although Hong Zhong was amazed by Lin Yi's performance just now, he could also tell that Lin Yi had suffered some injuries. "It's nothing. It's just a minor injury," Lin Yi said with a nonchalant smile as he circulated the mantra in his body to heal himself. Even if he only used it at the lowest level, the power of this killer move, which was a combination of the vital Qi bomb and the core fire bomb, was enough to instantly kill an expert in the great completion of the Foundation establishment stage. However, the price he had to pay was also not small, because if he used it at close range, he himself would also suffer from a considerable backlash. Although he could enter the space of the jade pendant to heal quickly, and Lin Yi could afford this price, if he used it in actual combat, it would still be a move that risked his life. With one move, regardless of whether the opponent died or not, he would be the first to be heavily injured. This was a huge disadvantage. In addition, although the time needed to accumulate Qi for this move was obviously much shorter than that of the vital Qi bomb, it was still much slower than conventional martial arts. If the opponent had not spoken so much nonsense just now, Lin Yi was afraid that he would not have had the chance to prepare. It could be seen that this move was powerful, but if it wanted to become a conventional killer move, he would need to think of ways to continuously improve it in the future. "That's good, young hero Lin, have a good rest." Hong Zhong nodded at Lin Yi and did not ask too much. From Lin Yi's shocking move just now, Hong Zhong could actually easily guess that the death of Jing Tianjie from Middle Island Alchemy Hall was most likely caused by Lin Yi. However, he did not intend to ask too much. If Lin Yi wanted to say, he would naturally say it. Since he did not want to say, then he would pretend that he did not know. In his eyes, there was no difference between Jing Tianjie and the person from the Universal Chamber of Commerce who was killed just now. They were all competitors of the Hong Chamber of Commerce. As long as they threatened the Hong Chamber of Commerce, they would be killed without mercy. Lin Yi replied with a Just as he was sitting cross-legged, he heard the sound of an extremely fast bird flying behind him. Those people actually had the guts to go and return. Could it be that they saw that he was injured? Lin Yi was slightly stunned, but he immediately knew that he was wrong. This time, there were only 3 people chasing after him. "Did you all see that move just now? Marshal nephew, what do you think?" Nan Tianba asked one of the people behind him in a deep voice. Reporting to Martial Uncle, although it was too far away and I couldn't see it clearly, I can confirm that this feeling was exactly the same as when Master was killed. It can be seen that Lin Yi is definitely second Lin. Yuzha said confidently. Then what are we waiting for? Big brother, let's hurry up and catch up. Nan Tianmen couldn't wait any longer. He was now only one step away from the gold core stage. His desire for the star ink stone was stronger than anyone else's. Good. It seems that after that kid used that move just now, he's already exhausted. As for that old man Hong Zhong, he's just a businessman. I've been in the North Island for so many years, but I've never heard of him being an expert. There's nothing to worry about. Let's do it. Nan Tianba ordered with a grin. In a moment, the bird that Nan Tianba and the other two were riding on had already appeared above Lin Yi and Hong Zhong's head. Sure enough, they caught up. These three people are really lingering around. Lin Yi raised his eyebrows slightly. Back at the auction, he had already noticed the existence of these three people. At that time, he was really surprised for a while, but he didn't pay attention to them. Above his head, Nan Tianba said arrogantly, "Should I call you Lin Yi, or should I call you by another name, Second Lin? My third brother, Nan Tianyong, was it you who killed him?" Lin Yi was about to speak, but Hong Zhong pressed down on his shoulder, indicating that he didn't need to pay attention to him and just focus on healing his injuries. Not talking? That means you're admitting it. The hatred of killing my master is absolutely irreconcilable. Martial uncles, please help this disciple. Yuzha pretended to have a sorrowful expression and wailed heartbreakingly. I don't need you to say it. Nan Tianmen curled his lips and pointed at Lin Yi. I'll give you two choices. One is to throw you down to feed the sea beasts and die without a complete corpse. The other is to take the initiative to hand over the star ink stone and the treasures you've been auctioning these past 2 days. Of course, you'll still die, but I'll leave your corpse intact. Choose for yourself. Hee, I'm going to die either way. You're still as overbearing as ever. Hong Zhong suddenly laughed. However, last time, I only threw you onto the street to embarrass myself. This time, in the vast sea, if you get thrown down again, you'll lose your life. Chapter 4033. Old man Hong Zhong, listen up. This is the vast North Sea, not your Hong Merchants Association. There aren't any guest officials who can stand up for you. If you don't know what's good for you, I'll make sure you die together with this kid, threatened the Southern Heavenly Gate. Oh. From what you're saying, if I just stand by and watch, you'll let me live? Hong Zhong said in surprise. That's right, we're looking for this brat purely to avenge our third brother. We don't have any intention of going against the Hong Merchant Guild. Of course, there's a prerequisite. Shopkeeper Hong better not come out and get in the way. After all, fists and feet have no eyes. If you accidentally get hurt, then there's nothing we can do. This time, it was Nan Tianba who spoke. If they killed Lin Yi here, they weren't afraid that Hong Zhong would go back and tell others. With the righteous reason of avenging their third brother, Nan Tianyong, this was purely a grudge of the Jianghu. Even the higher-ups of the three great pavilions wouldn't interfere and would turn a blind eye to it. However, if they killed Hong Zhong to hide the news, it wouldn't be a good thing for Nan Tianba and the others. No matter what, Hong Zhong was an important figure in the Hong Merchant Guild. Even if they did it secretly, the Hong Merchant Guild would still be able to find some clues. At that time, they wouldn't be able to walk away unscathed. So that's how it is. It seems like you guys are quite tactful. You clearly had the opportunity to take advantage of me, yet you still maintain such restraint. You're worthy of praise. Hong Zhong said unhurriedly. Then, he changed the topic. Unfortunately, you are still too stupid. What did you say? Nan Tianba's expression darkened. Southern Sky Gate and Yuzha also had unfriendly expressions. I said, you guys are too stupid. You actually thought that I would just stand by and watch young hero Lin's matter. If this isn't stupid, then what is? Hong Zhong laughed mockingly. My relationship with young hero Lin is not something you can imagine. We've known each other for a long time. Lin Yi was slightly startled. He didn't understand the meaning of Hong Zhong's last sentence. Known each other for a long time? Was he trying to prove something to Nan Tianba? Old man, you're courting death. The South Heaven Gate's expression turned hideous, but it was filled with a hint of joy. If it wasn't for the fact that he was afraid of the influence of the Hong Chamber of Commerce, he would have dismembered Hong Zhong to vent the hatred in his heart. Originally, he didn't have this opportunity because Nan Tianba wouldn't have allowed him to do so. But now, Hong Zhong was courting death, and he couldn't stop him even if he wanted to, so he couldn't blame anyone else. Shopkeeper Hong, I'll say it again. I don't want to become enemies with the Hong Merchant Guild, and I don't have any intention of killing you. You better know what's good for you. I'm sure you've heard that I'm not a very patient person. Killing someone on this vast ocean is just a small matter. Nan Tianba said with a gloomy expression. I've naturally heard of the 3 heroes of the Nan clan. However, aren't you a little too confident if you think you can scare me with just that? Hong Zhong's expression became a little playful. It looks like you're really courting death. Then I won't stop you. Die in peace, old thing. Nan Tianba suddenly stood up, emitting a terrifying aura from his body. Even the spiritual beast under his feet was trembling in fear, as if it was unable to maintain its posture. However, the weak spiritual beast did not show any reaction from Hong Zhong and Lin Yi. It was as if Nan Tianba's aura could not affect it at all. Deadly Overlord Fist. Nan Tianba's figure was like a savage demon god. The simple punch was accompanied by an incomparably domineering aura. Even the surface of the ocean that was tens of feet below began to ripple. The South Heaven Gate and Yu Zhou were behind him. They looked at Hong Zhong and Lin Yi as if they were looking at dead people. Even among the Golden Core stage experts, Nan Tianba was considered a troublesome character. With just a weak old man like Hong Zhong and Lin Yi's insignificant strength, they would not be able to withstand even a single attack. The only thing they needed to pay attention to right now was to make sure that the 2 of them didn't fall into the sea. After all, they hadn't gotten their hands on the Star Inkstone and those other rare treasures yet. If they killed the 2 of them and missed out on the treasures, that would be a huge joke. However, facing Nan Tianba's shocking killing move, both Lin Yi and Hong Zhong maintained a calm expression as if nothing had happened. Lin Yi was still sitting cross-legged to heal his injuries, while Hong Zhong did not put his opponent in his eyes at all. Hong Zhong watched helplessly as the life-stealing Overlord Fist was about to reach his head. Finally, he lazily stretched out a hand and swatted it as if he was swatting a fly. Then, a giant golden palm suddenly appeared beside Nan Tianba and sent him flying with a single slap. Huh! The South Heaven Gate and Yu Zhou were both dumbfounded. As a Golden Core stage expert, not only did Nan Tianba not kill his opponent instantly, he was also sent flying by Hong Zhong's palm. Wasn't this too miraculous of a turn of events? Luckily, the 2 of them had been preparing to fish up Hong Zhong and Lin Yi's corpses. Now, they were able to catch Nan Tianba before he fell into the ocean. Otherwise, no matter how strong Nan Tianba was, once he fell into the ocean, he would only become food for the sea beasts. There was no other possibility. After being caught by the South Heaven Gate and Yu Zhou, Nan Tianba was still in a state of shock from the slap. After a long time, he finally regained his senses. When he looked at Hong Zhong again, his expression was astonishingly filled with an unprecedented fear. As for the South Heaven Gate and Yu Zhou, they looked as if they had seen a ghost. Even Nan Tianba was sent flying by a single slap. If it was them instead, wouldn't they be slapped to the ground? He was clearly just a businessman. How could this ordinary-looking old man have such terrifying strength? Seeing that your uncle has some connections with my Hong Merchant Guild, I won't kill you this time. However, if there is a next time, and you dare to jump up and down in front of me again, you better be prepared to die. A terrifying murderous intent suddenly flashed across Hong Zhong's calm expression. Before this, he was still somewhat concerned about Nan Tianba's background. However, now that he was the vice president of the Hong Merchant Guild, he, Hong Zhong, could be considered a person with real power even in the Middle Island, which was full of influential people. He was basically on the same level as Xing Dongjue, so there was no need for him to be afraid. Even if he were to kill Nan Tianba, there wouldn't be too much trouble. However, he hadn't gone back to report on his new job yet. If he was too arrogant, it would be easy for others to criticize him. Chapter 40-34. Nan Tianba was completely scared out of his wits. Nan Tianmen and Yuzhe did not have the guts to fight against the unfathomable Hong Zhong. They could only timidly nod their heads. "Why aren't you scramming?" Hong Zhong narrowed his eyes. The spirit beast beneath Nan Tianba and the other two instantly became frightened birds. It desperately flapped its wings and quickly fled. "Elder Hong, thank you this time." Lin Yi slowly opened his eyes. "Not at all, it's just a small matter. However, these people are not easy to deal with. Although they will restrain themselves a bit when they return to the northern island, young hero Lin should still be a bit more vigilant." Hong Zhong reminded him. "Thank you for the reminder." Lin Yi smiled. With his current strength, he still could not deal with an expert like Nan Tianba. However, it was more than enough to protect himself. In his phone, he still had a trump card that he had not used yet. On the other side, Nan Tianba and the other two finally let out a sigh of relief after fleeing for half an hour. Only when they were several hundred kilometers away from Hong Zhong and Lin Yi did they slowly calm down. Among the three of them, none of them had thought that this would be the result. They originally thought that with Nan Tianba personally making a move, it would be a piece of cake. But in the end, they had actually kicked such a shocking iron plate. "Yuzhe." Nan Tianba suddenly opened his mouth weakly. This time, his injuries were not too serious. The key was that the psychological blow he suffered was too great. It was like falling from the clouds to the ground. "Here, great martial uncle." Yuzhe quickly pulled himself together and stepped forward. Nan Tianba looked at Yuzhe and suddenly raised his hand to slap his face. Yuzhe was caught off guard and was almost slapped off the back of the spirit beast. Fortunately, he grabbed the saddle and was able to keep his life. With great difficulty, he climbed back onto the back of the spirit beast. Before Yuzhe could steady himself, Nan Tianba immediately slapped him again. Yuzhe's cheek quickly swelled up. Seeing that Nan Tianba was about to make another move, Yuzhe was scared silly. He quickly bowed down and kowtowed, begging for mercy. "Great martial uncle, this disciple was wrong. This disciple was really wrong. I beg great martial uncle to forgive this disciple this time." "Then tell me, where did you go wrong?" Nan Tianba said expressionlessly. Yuzhe choked. He cursed in his heart that Nan Tianba had kicked an iron plate. However, if he were to say it out loud, it would be no different from courting death. "If I remember correctly, you swore earlier that Lin Yi was Lin Heir." Nan Tianba's expression suddenly turned into one of uncontrollable anger, with Lin Yi's background, and how close he is to Sheng Wanlaner. Even Ram Jie spoke up for him. Even Hong Zhong, who had such a close relationship with him, was unbelievably strong. If he wanted to kill you, it would be a piece of cake. He could just ask Hong Zhong to help him. Why would he need to pretend to be Lin Heir? Hong Zhong had also said that he had known Lin Yi for a long time. If Lin Yi wanted a staring stone, then Lin Yi wouldn't hesitate to give it to him. "Why would I need to compete with you?" With his relationship with Hong Zhong, it was just a matter of a word. Does he have nothing better to do? Is he messing with you? Do you think there's something wrong with his brain, or do you think my brain was kicked by a donkey? These words. Southern Heavenly Gate also expressed his agreement. After thinking about it carefully, this was indeed the case. There was no need for Lin Yi to disguise himself as Lin Heir. This was also good. Although they were rebuffed, they could at least confirm that the staring stone wasn't on Lin Yi's body. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for them to steal something from Lin Yi with their own strength. Yuzha had always been confident about this. He couldn't help but feel a bit embarrassed. He was still suspicious, but the move that Lin Yi used just now was exactly the same as when Lin Er dealt with my master. It's exactly the same as when Lin Er dealt with my master. How do you explain this? Southern Heavenly Gate thought about it and said, this isn't strange. Although I'm not a pill master, I can still see that the theory behind the pill fire bomb isn't too complicated. Any pill master with a bit of talent would only need to see it a few times to be able to imitate it. He was an expert that cultivated the small phaseless god technique. In terms of imitating martial skills, he had the most authority. If he was a pill master and could create a pill fire, he would have learned the pill fire bomb a long time ago. Yuzha choked, but he didn't give up. He couldn't help but quibble, since Lin Yi is called Lin 1, then could Lin Er be his brother? It's just like how eldest martial uncle is called Nan Tian Ba and my master is called Nan Tian Yong. This disciple always felt that Lin Yi's figure and temperament were very similar to Lin Er's. Get the hell out of here. There's no use talking about this, I'll just throw you down. Nan Tian Ba said impatiently. If it wasn't for the fact that Yuzha had a good eye for treasures, he would have already personally dealt with this troublemaker. Yuzha was so scared that he shrunk his neck. He covered his burning cheeks with one hand and didn't dare to make another sound. This eldest martial uncle was famous for his decisiveness in killing. If he really made him unhappy, he might really lose his life. Now, it seemed that Lin Yi wasn't Lin Er. This point could be confirmed. As a result, the three of them could only turn their attention back to Kang Mingming. However, if they wanted to take any action, they would have to carefully consider young Master Su Lingchong's attitude. They didn't know that in the few days that they had stayed on the extreme North Island, the three great pavilions of the North Island had long been in a mess. The news of Su Lingchong's disappearance was now known by everyone. Everyone was talking about this matter during their leisure time. Su Lingchong was one of the top young masters in the Soaring Sky Pavilion. In particular, he held the important position of the eldest senior brother who was in charge of the Soaring Sky Pavilion. In the eyes of everyone, he was a person with a boundless future. A while ago, he was the host of eldest Miss Shangguan's birthday banquet and showed his face in front of many important people. However, no one expected that such an influential person who was the center of attention would actually disappear for no reason. Actually, Su Lingchong didn't disappear for a long time. At the very most, it was only about 20 days. For cultivators who often had to go into closed-door training for several months or even several years, it was simply a snap of the fingers. If it was an ordinary person, they would have long gotten used to it and wouldn't even think about going missing. However, Su Lingchong was the eldest senior brother who was in charge of the Soaring Sky Pavilion. Everything from top to bottom had to go through his hands. If he didn't show up for more than 20 days consecutively, this matter was very serious. Chapter 40-35. The matter was of great importance. Under the uproar of the whole city, the higher-ups of the three pavilions finally ordered the Law Enforcement Hall to intervene in the investigation. All the elites were dispatched, and there was progress in just one day. The last time Su Lingchong appeared in front of people was when he hosted the birthday party, and the last person he met was actually Shanghai Laner. One was one of the best young masters in the Soaring Pavilion, and the other was the first miss of the Soaring Pavilion. The weight of these two people was not something that ordinary people could handle. In the end, only the hall master, Ram Jia, could personally come forward to question them. Shanghai Tianhua had no intention of interfering in this matter. He allowed Shanghai Laner to take the little curly bear to go to the law enforcement hall. However, after Shanghai Laner arrived at the law enforcement hall, she only said one sentence, which shocked everyone present. That day at the birthday party, Su Lingchong wanted to rape me under the influence of alcohol. Fortunately, my little white also drank wine, and he saved me after he went into a drunken frenzy. Such an explosive inside story made several higher-ups of the law enforcement hall stunned. They opened their mouths wide and couldn't react for a long time. Only Ram Jie didn't have any strange reaction. He said directly, "In that case, Su Lingchong should have failed to rape you, and then fled to avoid punishment." It seems so. It took a long time for the people of the law enforcement hall to recover from the shock, and they all echoed with strange expressions. "Issue a wanted notice to arrest Su Lingchong." Ram Jia immediately made a decision with no expression on his face. As soon as the wanted notice was issued, not only the 3 pavilions, but even the whole North Island was in an uproar. There were all kinds of speculations about Su Lingchong's disappearance, but no one thought in this direction. The top young master of the Soaring Pavilion raped the first miss of the Soaring Pavilion. This was simply breaking news that could not be heard for hundreds of years. When Su Yuanjing heard the news, his lungs were about to explode. This was also the reason why he didn't know that his grandson's lower part had been eroded by the little curly bear. Otherwise, he would probably have fainted on the spot. Su Lingchong, his grandson, was a core figure whom he was cultivating as the successor of the Su family. Now that he had done this, even if he could come back safe and sound in the future, his reputation would be ruined. Hall Lord Gongyang, Shengguan Laner's words are illogical. Putting aside the fact that my family's Chonger would never do such a foolish thing, even if he had drunk too much and lost his mind for a moment, how could a mere little curly bear stop him? Aren't you being too arbitrary by directly issuing an arrest warrant without saying anything? Su Yuanjing said with a livid old face. Ram Jia raised his eyes and looked at him. Facing this powerful elder of the Elders Guild, Ram Jia felt that it was impossible. He did not have the slightest reverence on his face as he said indifferently, "Since when did it become Elder Su's turn to question how my law enforcement hall does things?" Su Yuanjing choked on his words for a long time. He knew that Ram Jia never bought anyone's words. This was the authority given to him by the island master of the North Island, but he never thought that the other party would not give him face. Why would he run if he had nothing to do? When Su Lingchong is arrested and brought to justice, this matter will naturally come to light. Elder Su, you'd better think about how to explain it to Pavilion Master Shengguan. Ram Jia curled his lips in disdain, then immediately swung his hand and left, leaving Su Yuanjing alone in a daze. Let's not talk about the uproar outside. During this period of time, Su Lingchong had been in a secret room somewhere, wholeheartedly practicing the chrysanthemum treasure book that the mysterious man had left for him. Pa! Just as Su Lingchong was concentrating on his practice, an official document was suddenly thrown in front of him. With just a glance, Su Lingchong turned pale with fright. This was the arrest warrant issued by the Law Enforcement Hall. How could this be? Su Lingchong suddenly felt dizzy. Being cut into a eunuch by the little curly bear with a pair of scissors was already a big blow to him. Now that this happened, not only could he not be a man, he could not even be the young master of Soaring Sky Pavilion. Power and strength, these were the last driving forces that supported him to live. If he could not even achieve this little ambition, then what was the point of living? Looking at Su Lingchong's despairing expression, at this time, the mysterious man suddenly said, "Strength is the most important, everything else is just fleeting clouds. If you have the strength that I have, then you can say that you are guilty, then you are guilty. If you say that you are innocent, then you are innocent. No one in the North Island would dare to point fingers at you." Su Lingchong suddenly raised his head and looked at the mysterious man who was still covered in a black robe. He knew that the purpose of the other party deliberately bringing the arrest warrant this time was to threaten him, to make him give up the thought of escaping, and in the future, he could only follow him wholeheartedly. Once the arrest warrant was out, it could be said that he had nothing now. Even if the mysterious man was willing to let him out, he did not have the guts to return to the 3 great pavilions. Even the Su family could not tolerate him. After all, what was said in the warrant was all true. Finally, Su Lingchong took a deep breath and promised, "Senior, don't worry. I will definitely practice the chrysanthemum treasure book and work hard to improve my strength." This reaction was not at all out of the mysterious man's expectation. He nodded and said, "Not bad, you have ambition. When you have enough strength, I can find a way to cancel this arrest warrant for you, so that you can openly return to the 3 great pavilions in the North Island. Hearing this guarantee, Su Lingchong's eyes suddenly lit up, and he nodded repeatedly to thank him. At the same time, he could not help but secretly speculate about the identity of this mysterious man. Listening to the tone of the other party's words, it did not seem that he was perfunctory. Looking at the whole North Island, there were actually very few people who had the influence to cancel the arrest warrant. Could it be that this person was a senior of the 3 great pavilions? Or was it that North Island owner? While Su Lingchong was speculating in private, he saw that in the dark of this secret room, a figure suddenly appeared again. Like the mysterious man, he was covered in a large black robe. Normally speaking, every cultivator can change their mental cultivation method mnemonics once in the Tao of Heaven. However, you're already in the foundation establishment stage, so it's a bit late. In order to help you get used to it as quickly as possible, I invited a fierce person to give you some pointers. He's an expert that even my superiors think highly of, so you'd better show some respect. After saying this, the mysterious man turned to the person beside him and said, "Junior Brother Pao, I thank you in advance for letting you take time out of your busy schedule to come here to help guide me." The man in the black robe, who was called Junior Brother Pao, snorted and said, "Well, it's nothing. It's all for the organization." Chapter 4036. Su Lingchong was evasive. Thinking back to the time when Kong Mingming flattered him, he could only bite the bullet and shout, "Gunslinger," as the young master of the Soaring Sky Pavilion. It was always others who flattered him. When had he ever taken the initiative to flatter others? But he had to lower his head when he was under someone else's roof. In this situation, if he didn't know what was good for him, he would only be asking for trouble. Unexpectedly, just as Su Lingchong shouted, "Gunslinger," he was immediately kicked into a corner by the mysterious man. He almost suffered internal injuries. "Gunslinger is for you to call? You mean, you and I are of the same generation?" The mysterious man's tone was unfriendly. Su Lingchong was shocked. Ignoring the pain in his body, he hurriedly said, "Master Pao, your aptitude is not bad. You also have hatred in your heart. It is suitable for you to practice my unique chrysanthemum treasured book." Junior Pao nodded and said, "Actually, you don't have to worry too much. The ultimate meaning of the chrysanthemum treasured book is to take over someone else's body and be reborn. Although you are incomplete now, and are an incomplete man, as long as you practice with me in the future, as long as your strength reaches that level, you can take over someone else's body and be reborn." Taking over someone else's body and being reborn was an extremely rare thing even in the world of cultivation where experts gathered. Even with Su Lingchong's experience, he had only heard of rumors and had never actually come into contact with it. He didn't expect that the chrysanthemum treasured book that the mysterious man wanted him to practice actually had such a legendary technique. "That's great, Wayayaya, I want to take over Lin Yi's body." Su Lingchong immediately swept away the haze that had been hanging over him recently. No man would really want to be a eunuch. As long as there was a glimmer of hope, they would grasp it tightly as their last hope. It's good that there is hatred." A cold smile flashed across Junior Pao's face. He then handed Su Lingchong a piece of paper and said, "This is my summary of my experiences. It will be very beneficial for your cultivation of the chrysanthemum treasured book. I'll give it to you as a reference. Also, this medicinal pill is to be swallowed in conjunction with the cultivation of the chrysanthemum treasure book. I've already used less than half of this star ink stone, so you can use it as well. Let this mysterious senior brother teach you how to use it." "Thank you, Master Pao. Thank you so much." Su Lingchong did not suspect anything. He received it and nodded his head to express his thanks. Right now, his mind was only filled with one thing, and that was to seize another body and be reborn. Looking at Su Lingchong's performance, Junior Brother Pao and the mysterious man looked at each other and laughed silently. In West Island, as soon as Ning Shuefei came back from the auction in the far North Island, she couldn't wait to find her best friend. If Lin Yi was here, he would be surprised to see her best friend. It was Han Jingjing. Ever since she came to Heaven's Stage Island, Han Jingjing still maintained her interest in the secular world and always liked to study some strange mechanisms. Ning Xuefei, the daughter of the Ning family, also had the same hobby. After a chance encounter, the two of them hit it off immediately. Soon, they became super best friends. It was a pity that the technology on Heaven's Stage Island was limited. Without those electronic components, Han Jingjing could no longer make automatic medicine cauldrons. Therefore, there was no way to refine elixirs anymore. The two of them could only study some other delicate mechanisms together. Although Ning Xuefei did not like to practice, just like the King of Rags, she was a proper armament master. When she chatted with Han Jingjing, she accidentally found that they had a common master, that was Sun Sikong. More or less, they had both received guidance from Sun Sikong. With this unexpected relationship, the relationship between the two became closer. They talked almost everything. No matter what happened, they wanted to share it with each other as soon as possible. Jingjing, Jingjing, look, these elixirs are the biggest harvest I got from this trip to the far North Island. What do you think of the quality of these elixirs? Ning Xuefei said with an expression of presenting treasures. The quality of these elixirs should be very rare even among the best ones. It's the first time I've seen such good elixirs since I came to Heaven's Stage Island. They're just like the ones refined by Brother Lin Yi in the secular world. Han Jingjing suddenly said in amazement. He. My eyes are very good, right? Do you want to know where these elixirs came from? Ning Xuefei pretended to be mysterious. How? Han Jingjing asked cooperatively. Ning Xuefei giggled and didn't keep Han Jingjing guessing anymore. She told Han Jingjing everything that had happened during the auction, especially about her and Lin Yi. Ning Xuefei told Han Jingjing everything that had happened during the auction, especially about her and Lin Yi. After listening, Han Jingjing's big eyes flashed and she asked, Feifei, that little fellow, what's his name? Ning Xuefei was stunned and scratched her head. I don't know, I forgot to ask. What does he look like? Han Jingjing asked again. Jing, why are you asking so carefully? Ning Xuefei looked up and down at Han Jingjing suspiciously. Suddenly, she hugged Han Jingjing and laughed. Ah. I know. Jing, have you fallen in love with that young fellow after what I said to you? She thought. If there's a chance, I'll help you matchmake him. Han Jingjing suddenly blushed and wrinkled her nose. Forget it, you know that I already have someone I like. She talked to Ning Xuefei about everything in the common world, especially things related to Lin Yi. Ning Xuefei knew all about it. Alright, let's not talk about this for now. Let's continue to study the automatic casting mechanism today. I can't wait for the past few days. Ning Xuefei played around for a while, then dragged Han Jingjing to a secret room. This was a secret base that was specially set up for their research. Well, about this automatic casting mechanism, I've thought of a new idea these days. We can try it. Han Jingjing immediately put the matter of the little fellow behind her and discussed it excitedly. Of course, Lin Yi didn't notice it at all. After returning to the North Island, he also heard about Su Lingchong. Although it was a little unexpected, it was still reasonable. The attempted rape was a fact. Even if Shanghai Laner didn't take the initiative to report it, Su Lingchong certainly wouldn't have the guts to show up rashly. Especially from the original situation, his current situation was still unknown. As for his disappearance, it was normal. But what Lin Yi didn't expect was that with Su Lingchong's background, he would be beaten when he was down. Under the command of Ram Jia, the law enforcement hall was really confident. That's good. The law enforcement hall saved me a lot of trouble by doing this. Lin Yi looked at the wanted poster and smiled knowingly. Chapter 4037. The hatred formed at the birthday party last time could be said to be irreconcilable. Su Lingchong could jump out from the dark at any time to launch a sneak attack. With his strength in the peak of Foundation establishment, it was no doubt difficult to deal with. But now Not only the 3 pavilions, but also other places in the North Island were also covered with wanted posters from the law enforcement hall. Su Lingchong didn't even dare to show up, let alone launch a sneak attack on Lin Yi. At least in a short period of time, Lin Yi didn't need to worry about his threat. However, people without foresight would have immediate worries. Soon, Lin Yi received bad news. Hong Zhong was about to leave the North Island. As the incoming vice president of the headquarters of the Hong Chamber of Commerce, Hong Zhong's departure was a foregone conclusion from the moment he was appointed. What really gave Lin Yi a headache was what Hong Zhong told him before he left. Young hero Lin, according to your request, I have asked the headquarters not to deal with your identity as the honorary vice president publicly. Only the president and the executive vice president know about it. Don't worry, Hong Zhong said. Well, thank you, Mr. Hong. Lin Yi breathed a sigh of relief. This was a matter of course. As a newcomer in Blue Cloud Pavilion, if he suddenly made such an arrogant identity as the honorary vice president of the Hong Chamber of Commerce, he would simply attract hatred. There would inevitably be people who would be envious and hate him. This was also inconsistent with Lin Yi's purpose of improving his strength in a low-key manner. However, what Hong Zhong said next made his face change slightly. I'm leaving today to go to Middle Island to take the position of the vice president. If everything goes well, the new manager of the North Island branch will be in place in 2 days. Young hero Lin, you have to be careful of this person. What do you mean? Lin Yi's eyes narrowed. This person's name is Si Haishao. He was originally the supervisor of Hong Ying Group in the headquarters of Middle Island, responsible for supervising the branch managers. This time, taking advantage of the vacancy in the North Island branch, he spent a lot of effort to fight for this position. Hong Zhong paused and then said, there is one thing you still don't know, young hero Lin. Previously, Southern Sky Gate came to threaten me to give out the details of your other identity. At that time, they used Si Haixiao's personal letter as a threat. So, this Si Haixiao has a close relationship with Nan Tianba and the others? Lin Yi couldn't help but feel a headache after hearing this. With his relationship with Hong Zhong, it would be easy for him to ask the Hong Chamber of Commerce for help in the future, such as purchasing the heart-devouring exquisite grass. Even if it was someone else, with Hong Zhong's help, it wouldn't be a big problem for them either. However, if this successor had a close relationship with Nan Tianba and his group, it would be extremely difficult to ask the Hong Chamber of Commerce for help. Even if Hong Zhong was his immediate superior, the branch shopkeeper was a feudal lord and had great autonomy. If he insisted on not cooperating with such a small matter that had nothing to do with his principles, even Hong Zhong would not be able to do anything to him. Not bad, and this guy is from Hong Ying's team. His intelligence surveillance ability is far above that of a normal person. Once you are targeted by him, it will be very difficult for you to hide any secrets. So, young hero Lin, you must be careful. Hong Zhong reminded again. Lin Yi nodded and said, I understand. Thank you for your concern, Elder Hong. Elder Hong must have faced many challenges on this trip to Middle Island. I wish you all the best. You will be promoted step by step. Hong Zhong smiled and said, then, I will borrow young hero Lin's auspicious words. This old man will go to Middle Island to fight a preliminary battle. If nothing goes wrong, we will meet again on Middle Island. See you on Middle Island. Lin Yi smiled slightly. Hong Zhong originally thought that the new branch shopkeeper, Si Haixiao, would take at least a few days to arrive. However, he did not know that when he said goodbye to Lin Yi, Si Haixiao had already arrived on North Island. However, he did not appear in public and had been investigating in secret. Before the troops and horses moved, the intelligence was already in advance. As the former Hong Ying Group's 4 Directions supervisor, even if Si Haixiao became the shopkeeper of the North Island branch, he would not get rid of this habit that he had developed over the years. As for Nan Tianba and the others, since they were the local tyrants of North Island and had various connections with him, they were naturally the first choice for Si Haixiao to understand the situation. Supervisor Si, oh no, you should be shopkeeper Si now. I did not expect you to be transferred to North Island. This news really made us overjoyed. We have finally found a backer. In the future, please take care of us, shopkeeper C. Southern Sky Gate said with a flattering smile. Nan Tianba was arrogant and disdained flattery, while Yuzha's level was not high enough. Therefore, among the few of them, Southern Sky Gate had the closest relationship with Si Haishao. Well said, well said. We are all on the same side. As long as you help me in the future, I won't mistreat you guys, ha ha ha. However, this is my first time here, so my understanding of North Island is mostly literal information. As for the specific situation, I still need you guys to tell me in detail. Si Haishao said with an amiable expression. Okay. Southern Sky Gate was happy to show off, so he immediately nodded. Although they had looked down on Hong Zhong previously, the position of the manager of the Hong Chamber of Commerce's North Island branch was extremely important to anyone. Otherwise, Hong Zhong would not have been able to easily become an honored guest of Shengguan Tianhua, who was one of the top figures of the three pavilions. If they could curry favor with him, the benefits were self-evident. Especially after the few confrontations with Hong Zhong, they knew the background of the Hong Chamber of Commerce, so they were even more respectful. The three members of the South Heaven Gate immediately poured out everything they knew about the forces on the North Island to Si Haishao. They didn't even hide some of the secrets of the three great pavilions that no one knew about. In the end, Southern Sky Gate did not forget to mention Lin Yi. Although they were now sure that Lin Yi was not the second Lin they were looking for, after the incident on North Island, they had already become enemies with Lin Yi and Hong Zhong. Strike first and gain the upper hand. Now that they had a backer like Si Haishao, it would be a waste if they did not make good use of him. After listening to their narration, Si Haishao pondered for a moment and said, I think it's best to slow down the matter of finding trouble with Lin Yi. Now that Hong Zhong is in the limelight, once he goes to Middle Island and is separated from Lin Yi for a long time, their relationship will naturally fade. It won't be too late to make a move on Lin Yi then. Hearing this, Nan Tianba and the others looked at each other. That's not right, the meaning behind it was too obvious. Chapter 4038. From the Honging group to the manager of the North Island branch, Si Haishao's position had changed a lot. Not only did he have his own connections, but more importantly, Nan Tianba and the others' uncles had spent a lot of money to help him get in touch with an amazing business performance. This made him, a supervisor who was not in charge of business, stand out in the Hong Chamber of Commerce and had the capital to compete for a higher position. Seeing that Si Haishao had already put it this way, Nan Tianba and the others could not force him and could only nod silently. During this period of time, I'd better think of a way to investigate the whereabouts of Lin Er for you. Si Haishao laughed. Although he was not familiar with the people and the place, he had a deep relationship with the Honging Group's intelligence system. If he wanted to use the Honging Group's intelligence force in the North Island, it was just a matter of a word. Thank you, Manager C. Nan Tianba and the others were immediately overjoyed. They only wanted revenge against Lin Yi, but if they found Lin Er, not only could they avenge their third brother, Nan Tianyong, but they could also get a huge benefit like the Starring Stone. This matter was much more important. At the same time, Si Haishao, Nan Tianba, and the others were planning on this side. After sending Hong Zhong away, Lin Yi went to find the Garbage King and gave him all the materials he needed, shocking the guy to the point where his jaw dropped. Although he listed 7 kinds of casting materials for Lin Yi and pointed out the way of auction, the King of Junk really did not expect that Lin Yi could buy them so smoothly. If it was him, he probably would not have the hope of collecting so many top-grade materials in his life. The casting materials had been collected, but the King of Junk did not immediately start casting. As a casting master, he needed to spend time to familiarize himself with these materials. Otherwise, if he acted rashly, the success rate would be worrying. Lin Yi, on the other hand, didn't have much to do during this time. The professional, the King of Junk, was in charge of the preparations. As for the daily life in the Welcome Pavilion, because of Su Lingchong's sudden disappearance, Kang Mingming's group had obviously ceased all activities. Consequently, Lin Yi's life became peaceful. Murongzhen gritted her teeth, but there was nothing she could do. Without Kang Mingming and the others to stand up for her, it would be impossible for her to defeat Lin Yi on her own. However, how could a vengeful creature like her give up so easily? Since there was no opportunity to push the boat along with the current, then he would take the initiative to create an opportunity and stir up more waves. While the king of junk was making his final preparations, Lin Yi was cultivating as usual. Other than familiarizing himself with the new killer moves, he also needed time to stabilize his new realm. Previously, he had heard people say that every peak of the Foundation establishment realm was an insurmountable threshold. The last time he broke through to the peak of the early stage of the Foundation establishment realm was a clear example. This time, he was at the peak of the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm. If he did not diligently cultivate, then no matter how many pills he had, it would be useless. However, just a few days ago, there was a rumor about Lin Yi. It was widely spread in the 3 pavilions. "Boss, is it true that you like Miss Shangguan?" When they got together, Xiao Hong asked with a mischievous look. "Boss, is it true?" Even senior brother Bitter, Xiao Ran, and Li Jingming had the word gossip written clearly on their faces. "What do you mean?" Lin Yi was confused. "Junior brother Lin. You don't have to pretend in front of us. It's not shameful to say it out loud. Just admit it." Even an honest man like senior brother Bitter began to wink at him. Lin Yi was even more confused. He looked at them with strange expressions and asked curiously, "What's going on? What do you want me to admit?" The few of them looked at each other. In the end, it was still Xiao Ran who slowly explained, "Recently, there has been a very hot rumor circulating in the streets. Boss, you like Miss Shangguan, but unfortunately, you didn't confess to her during the birthday party. Su Lingchong realized the danger because he saw you alone with Miss Shangguan. That was why he attempted to rape you." This rumor could be said to have a nose and eyes, and it did somewhat corroborate the situation that day. In addition, the protagonists were influential figures like Shangguan Laner and Su Lingchong, so it was completely in line with everyone's needs for gossip. It was reasonable that it spread more and more intensely in a place like the 3 pavilions. Looking at the few people with a strong thirst for knowledge, Lin Yi shrugged helplessly. It said that rumors stop with the wise. You guys don't really believe that there's such a thing, right? There's obviously a problem with the logic here. If I failed to confess to Shangguan Laner, then what's Su Lingchong worried about? Just because he saw me getting closer to Shangguan Laner, he went crazy and tried to rape her. In the end, he ended up being wanted on the wanted list. Is Su Lingchong so brainless? That's true. Senior brother Bitter and the others nodded one after another. In fact, they didn't really believe this rumor, but it was an obvious fact that Shangguan Laner looked at Lin Yi in a different light. In the end, they just wanted to know if Lin Yi was interested in this Miss Shangguan. However, this rumor suddenly came out. Is it purely because everyone is gossiping, or is someone playing tricks in the dark? Lin Yi couldn't help but have more doubts between his brows. Regardless of what more far-reaching impact it would have in the future, this rumor had already put Lin Yi on fire. Next, Lin Yi's every move would be paid attention to. It was really not a small trouble. When Lin Yi said this, senior brother Bitter and the others' eyelids twitched at the same time. Yes, if this rumor is taken seriously, then junior brother Lin, you're in danger. This is equivalent to becoming the culprit of Su Lingchong's current situation. Su Yuanzhang has always regarded him as the future of the Su family. It's hard to guarantee that he won't retaliate. That's a possibility. However, Su Yuanzhang is an elder, and he has always presented himself as a righteous and honorable person. The possibility of him making a move against me shouldn't be high. After all, that would give others a chance to use him against me. Lin Yi shook his head. Compared to his own situation, he was more worried about Shangguan Lan. Although she had the dazzling halo of Shangguan Tianhua's only granddaughter, Shanghai Laner did not have much strength. She was a little naive and simple, and she often sneaked out with the little curly bear. If someone really wanted to target her, there was a chance that they would succeed. It was unknown whether they had a tacit understanding, or Chow Chow just arrived on time. While they were discussing, they saw a small figure in the distance running towards Lin Yi. It was the little curly bear. Chapter 4039. Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but he didn't say much. Seeing that the little curly bear dared to come to the welcome pavilion in broad daylight, he sighed in his heart. Now that there was no big trouble like Su Lingchong, his little senior sister was obviously not vigilant anymore. If it was in the past, she wouldn't have let the little curly bear come at this time. The purpose of the little curly bear coming was naturally to send a letter for Shanghai Laner. There were only 7 words in the letter: see you in the woods in 3 days. There were too many of them to count, and anyone else would have had no idea what they were talking about. Only Lin Yi himself knew which part of the forest he was referring to. 3 days passed by in a flash. Lin Yi arrived on time, and the location was the woods where he and Shanghai Laner had their first date. Sure enough, as soon as Lin Yi passed through the forest path, he saw Shanghai Laner waving at him from the pavilion. Little junior brother, I heard that you went to the extreme North Island a few days ago. How was it? Was it fun there? Shanghai Laner asked excitedly as soon as they met. It was alright, but this time I went to participate in the auction, so I didn't play much. Lin Yi smiled and nodded, but he was a little surprised in his heart. He had never told anyone about him going to the extreme North Island with Hong Zhong. How come even the big Miss Shanghai Laner had heard about it now? Little did he know, on the first day that Nan Tianba and the others returned from the extreme North Island, they urged the Welcome Pavilion's pavilion master, Hu Yunfeng, to report this matter to the higher-ups of the 3 pavilions. They accused Lin Yi, as a newcomer, of not following the rules and running around. Even if they couldn't let Lin Yi receive any substantial punishment, they still wanted to use this matter to disgust him. However, everyone's focus was on the wanted Su Lingchong, so no one paid attention to such a small matter. Of course, if Lin Yi made any more mistakes in the future, this matter would inevitably be brought up by people with ulterior motives. At that time, it would be one disaster after another. That's a pity. I heard from Feifei that the extreme North Island is very fun. It's just that my grandpa never goes there, and he never lets me go alone. Shangguan Laner's beautiful eyes turned, and she suddenly said, how about we sneak out to play next time, and don't let my grandpa know. Quack. Lin Yi was still wondering who the Feifei that Shangguan Laner mentioned was. When he suddenly heard such a sentence, he couldn't help but be shocked. He hadn't even done anything with this little senior sister, but there were already rumors spreading everywhere. If he really brought her to the northernmost island, wouldn't he be caught and criticized? What? Are you unwilling? Shangguan Laner frowned. Lin Yi reacted quickly, oh, I see. Let's wait for a chance. The extreme North Island is heavily guarded. You can't just go in whenever you want. Alright then. Shangguan Laner pouted, and suddenly said, little junior brother, this time you rarely go to the northernmost island. Did you bring a gift for me, your senior sister? Lin Yi was thinking about this matter. He immediately nodded and said, I brought it. Saying that, he took out 2 strings of crystal blue necklaces from his arms, and handed one of them to Shangguan Laner. Shangguan Laner suddenly became happy. She held the necklace and cheered, little junior brother, you have a conscience. Senior sister really didn't dote on you in vain. This necklace is so beautiful. I like it very much. Since little senior sister likes it, then it couldn't be better. Lin Yi smiled with relief, and then introduced, these 2 necklaces. In fact, I found a blacksmith to guide me from the side these 2 days. I personally made it. Really? Shangguan Laner's eyes lit up when she heard this. The necklace was bought by someone else, and the necklace that Lin Yi personally made. In her eyes, this necklace was completely different. This necklace was the result of Lin Yi's painstaking efforts. Of course it's true. I bought a pair of blue photon crystals at the Extreme North Islands auction, so I had a sudden impulse to make a pair of mother and child necklaces. After injecting vital chi, the two necklaces can sense each other. Little senior sister, after you wear this necklace, if you encounter danger and get nervous, the vital chi I inject will fluctuate, so no matter where you are, I can sense your position, Lin Yi explained. The idea of making a mother and child necklace was not purely a whim, but after hearing the recent rumors, Lin Yi thought of a way to protect Shangguan Laner in disguise. In this way, if she encountered any danger, Lin Yi would be able to sense it. It's so magical, then I can't let little junior brother down. Shangguan Laner immediately jumped for joy and wore the blue photon crystals necklace in front of Lin Yi. How is it, little junior brother? Does it look good on me? Shangguan Laner raised her neck and turned around. Her beauty was like that of a fairy descending to the mortal world. Even with Lin Yi's mental fortitude, he could not help but stare at her. It looks great, Lin Yi praised sincerely. Hee hee, little junior brother's mouth is so sweet, I like it. Shangguan Laner teased innocently. On the contrary, Lin Yi, an old man, who had been in love for a long time, actually blushed in embarrassment. This time, Shangguan Laner asked Lin Yi out for no special reason. It was purely for fun. Moreover, this little senior sister did not have any airs of a rich lady. It was relaxing and happy to be with her. There was a balance between work and rest. It was rare for Lin Yi to accompany her to relax for a day. The next day, Lin Yi calculated that it was about time. He immediately went to the secret cave base of the King of Rags, and began to start the final countdown of casting. After these days of contact, Lin Yi had a good understanding of the King of Rags. He also believed that this casting master, who had never had any outstanding achievements, could cast a powerful magic weapon to his liking with these rare materials that he had painstakingly collected. However, as a casting master himself, Lin Yi naturally could not just be a carefree hands-off boss. Even if he could not control the whole casting process with his ability, it was not a big problem for him to help the King of Rags. Moreover, whether he succeeded or failed, he would definitely benefit a lot. The super rare materials, including the 10,000-year tree crystal and the ancient Pure Land, were included in the casting process. This time, it was almost an unprecedented feat in the entire cultivation world. Not to mention Lin Yi and the King of Rags, even the most powerful top casting master would be thrilled. The King of Rags had said to Lin Yi more than once that this casting would be recorded in history and make him famous all over the world. Chapter 40. The Garbage King didn't mention this change, but Lin Yi could tell from his actions that the guy was even more careful than Lin Yi, the person in question. He didn't want the slightest accident to happen. From the beginning to the end, the King of Wornout looked at the whole casting plan again and changed it tirelessly. Even the word nitpicking was not enough to describe the King of Wornout's strictness. After finishing the final preparations with the King of Wornout, Lin Yi asked, "Everything is ready. Is it time to start casting?" However, after the King of Junk cleaned his clothes again, he shook his head and said, "It's not working yet." Why not? Lin Yi paused. As an assassin, his patience wasn't bad, but after going through so many rounds of preparation, even his patience was running out. The King of Wornout deserved to be a research genius. Once he devoted himself to it, his persistence could not be tolerated by ordinary people. "Brother Lin, can you find some weapons or props that have been formed outside? It doesn't matter if they are of high or low grade. I have an idea that might be useful in casting," the King of Wornout said while rubbing his forehead. After thinking for a while, Lin Yi took out a ring and handed it to him, saying, "Will this ring of genuine chi work?" The King of Wornout's eyes lit up. He immediately nodded and said, "Yes, as long as it is a formed wizard weapon. It's just an auxiliary material. Anyway, it's better to have more of this kind of weapon just in case. If that's the case, I still have a few old weapons. Since I can't use them now, I can take them to forge for you." What Lin Yi referred to were the heaven-level weapons he collected in the secular world. It was a good time to make use of them. After informing the king of Wornout, Lin Yi was about to find a secluded corner. He planned to take out those heaven-level wizard weapons from the space of the jade pendant. However, at this moment, an inexplicable throbbing came from his heart. The source was the genuine chi fluctuation of the Mother of Blue Light necklace on his chest. Lin Yi had never thought that the mother and child necklace he had given to Shanghai Laner would come in handy in just a few days. Sensing Shangguan Laner's location through the mother-child necklace, Lin Yi suddenly found that Shanghai Laner was very far away at the moment, although she was still within the range of North Island. But from the looks of it, at least they had completely left the territory of the three great pavilions. The connection between the mother and child necklaces will only give a clear warning when Shanghai Laner feels danger and is nervous. Therefore, the possibility of Shanghai Tianhua taking her out can be ruled out. This little senior sister might really be in big trouble if she is so far away from the three pavilions. Just as Lin Yi sensed the crisis, far away in the wilderness on the other side of North Island. In a shabby martial arts field, Shanghai Laner was tied up. As for the little curly bear, who was always by her side, he was knocked unconscious. He was put in a sack and thrown in a corner, with a strong smell of alcohol on his body. "Hey, what do you want to do by bringing me to this shabby place?" Shanghai Laner's behavior at this time was simply shocking. Not only was he not afraid like before, he even shouted angrily at the two black-clothed masked men in front of him. At the same time, she also secretly glanced at the little curly bear in the corner, with hidden hope in her eyes. The cause of the accident this time was this little fellow. If the little fellow hadn't come out to steal wine to drink, Shanghai Laner would not have rushed out. Otherwise, if she had stayed in the heavily guarded territory of Rising Sky Pavilion, the two masked men in black in front of her would not have had a chance to kidnap her. However, thinking of the magical performance of the little fellow after drinking the spiritual wine last time, Shanghai Laner still had some confidence in the bottom of her heart. Even Su Lingchong's family jewels could be erased. It should be no problem to deal with these two masked men in black who did not look very strong, right? One of the masked men in black glanced at her and said in a hoarse voice that was obviously deliberately changed, "Do you still need to ask?" "Of course it's to kidnap you. Is it strange to kidnap a rich lady like you?" "TSK, kidnap this lady, don't tell me you really dare to ask my grandfather for ransom?" Shanghai Laner curled her lips in disdain. Even if her own strength was not good, she could see that the strength of these two people was not to the extent of being abnormal. It was impossible for them to challenge her grandfather, Shanghai Tianhua. "Who told you that kidnappings must be for ransom?" "Humph, a rich lady like you is really ignorant." The masked man in black replied mockingly. Shanghai Laner was immediately stunned. At this time, the other masked man in black also opened his mouth. It was a rather familiar female voice. "Without this big obstacle, Su Lingchong, boss will be able to smoothly ascend the position this time and become the son-in-law of Shanghai Tianhua. It's just a matter of time." The male masked man glared at her and carefully looked at Shanghai Laner. He turned his head and reprimanded, "Don't talk nonsense." The female masked man did not care. What's there to be afraid of? When the rice is cooked, do you think we'll be afraid that this little girl won't admit it? We're only doing this because we have no other choice. Otherwise, with boss's relationship with her, although it's not bad, there's still a long way to go to get the approval of Shanghai Tianhua. After all, his identity is not good. He's just a newcomer in the welcoming pavilion, he's not good enough. As the two masked men talked, they paid attention to Shanghai Laner's expression. However, they found that this little girl did not have the doubt and understanding that they had imagined. Instead, she looked at the two of them as if they were crazy. These two people must be sick in the head. I don't know what they're talking about. Shanghai Laner did not pay attention to the two people's words at all. She only secretly glanced at the little curly bear and found that the little guy was snoring like thunder. She was speechless and rolled her eyes. How could he sleep at such a crucial time? This little guy was really unreliable. Shanghai Laner was speechless. The two masked men in black were even more speechless than her. They had deliberately racked their brains to come up with these words just now and deliberately said it to Shanghai Laner face to face. In the end, this little girl did not take it seriously at all. What could they do? They really did not know whether this little girl, Shanghai Laner, was too careless or her brain was really not good. The direction of the words was so obvious, how could she not have any reaction after hearing it? The two masked men looked at each other speechlessly, but there was nothing they could do. They could not repeat these words to her face, right? That would really make them crazy. Chapter 40-41. After the man walked into the broken martial arts practice field, he carefully looked at the two people outside. After making sure that no one was looking at him, he quickly turned around and walked to Shanghai Laner, whispering, "Miss Shangwan, I actually pretend to be with boss. In fact, I'm in Chao camp, but my heart is in Han camp. I can help you inform him. Although I dare not let you go, you can write a letter to your grandfather. I will send it for you and ask him to save you." Write a letter? How should I write it? Shangwan Lan turned to look at him. It's very simple. You just need to tell your grandfather that you were kidnapped by boss Lin Yi. The masked man in black guided her. Hearing this, Shanghai Laner's eyes curved into a beautiful crescent. Seeing that the masked man in black was staring at her eagerly, she suddenly smiled helplessly and said, "But I don't study much, and I can't read." Quack. The masked man in black almost choked to death. "You are the Miss Shangwan, the pearl of Tianhua's palm. How could you say that you can't read?" The masked man in black was stunned for a long time. He didn't know whether it was true or not. After all, some cultivators had been cultivating since childhood. It was not impossible for them to be illiterate. So he said, "How about this, you tell me to write it, and then you sign it." Shanghai Laner continued to shake her head. "No, I've never signed it. In the 3 pavilions of the North Island, who dares to ask me to sign it?" "You." Even under the black mask, the masked man's twitching expression could be seen. "Do you still want your grandfather to know that you were kidnapped by Lin Yi and ask him to come here to save you?" "No, it's fun here. Let's talk about it in a few days. I don't want my grandfather to worry about me. So that he won't ask me to cultivate all day long." Shanghai Laner looked like she was going to take things as they came. Puff. The masked man in black almost choked to death by his own saliva. This time, he was completely at his wits' end. How could he deal with this girl? At this moment, outside the broken martial arts arena, the two masked men from before had already taken off their masks. If there were people in the welcoming pavilion, they would definitely be shocked. These two people were actually Kong Mingming and Murongzhen. As long as we hand that chick's handwritten letter to Shangwan Tianhua, Lin Yi will be in deep trouble. Deacon Kong, you're really smart. Murongzhen laughed excitedly. You flatter me. How could you come up with such a daring idea as kidnapping Shangwan Lan? Lady Murong's courage is truly admirable. Kong Mingming replied proudly. At the same time, he turned his head to look at the broken arena. I just didn't expect that girl to be so stupid. She couldn't even hear such an obvious hint. Now we can only pin our hopes on Cha Wu. Don't worry, Deacon Kong. Although Cha Wu is a fence-sitter with no loyalty, he's not one to be trifled with. Even if it's just to save his own life, he wouldn't dare to ruin our plan, Murongzhen said confidently. As the two of them were talking, Cha Wu had already come out from the other side. His head was hanging low, and he looked dejected and speechless. Cha Wu, how did it go? Is it done? Kong Mingming asked. Sigh. Don't mention it. Cha Wu looked extremely depressed. After listening to Cha Wu's report, both Kong Mingming and Murongzhen were dumbfounded. How did Shangwan Tianhua raise his only granddaughter? She's already been kidnapped. How can she still be so open-minded? Is she stupid? Kang Mingming thought about it and made a decision immediately. A long delay may cause trouble. We can't wait any longer. Lady Murong, you should go back and report now. Anyway, Lin Yi has been appearing and disappearing mysteriously recently. We don't know where he is hiding. No matter what you say, you are right. This. All right. Murongzhen hesitated for a while, but she nodded and agreed in the end. It was actually quite a risky thing to report Lin Yi. However, since Kang Mingming had already said so, she couldn't just reject him. If the two of them had an internal conflict, it would be over. After all, Shanghai Laner's identity was not to be underestimated. Every moment they waited would increase the danger. Murongzhen immediately set off for the 3 major pavilions and went straight to the law enforcement hall to report. She claimed that she accidentally saw Lin Yi and his men kidnapping Shanghai Laner. As soon as she said that, the entire law enforcement hall was shocked. Last time, she was raped by Su Lingchong. How long had it been this time? She was kidnapped again. Could it be that this year was the year of Shanghai Laner's birth? Not only was the report shocking, but the law enforcement hall's reaction, or more accurately, the hall master Ram Jie's reaction was even more shocking. Within an hour after receiving Murongzhen's report, the law enforcement hall directly issued an arrest warrant to arrest Lin Yi without even notifying his relative, Shanghai Tianhua. Such a decisive and swift reaction was like heaven and earth compared to the time when Nan Tianyong had been killed. Even Murongzhen, the person who had exposed the truth, felt that it was unbelievable when he saw all of this. She thought that the law enforcement hall would at least interrogate her carefully. She had even made a mental draft in advance. However, she didn't expect that things would go so smoothly. It was so smooth that she was a little depressed. She had prepared for nothing. She hadn't even shown her ability, but she was not allowed to speak. However, thinking of what Su Lingchong had done before, it should be understandable. When it came to Shanghai Laner, the speed was indeed fast. As soon as the arrest warrant was issued, the 3 pavilions were in an uproar again. What was more surprising was that only 2 hours after the arrest warrant was issued, Lin Yi, who was still ignorant of all this, was directly caught on the spot. Seeing that his arrest warrant was jointly suppressed by a group of experts of the law enforcement hall, Lin Yi finally realized that all this was a conspiracy aimed at him. These days, he was busy studying how to cast weapons with the King of Rags, so his thinking was somewhat out of line with the outside world. If it had been in the past, with Lin Yi's usual cautious style, he should have been vigilant when he found that Shanghai Laner was in danger. He would never swagger back to the welcome pavilion and even go up to see his arrest warrant. However, it was too late now. Falling into the hands of the law enforcement hall, Lin Yi couldn't escape by force with his own strength. Everything else depended on Ram Jie's mood. Judging from his contact with Ram Jie at the birthday party last time, with Ram Jie's arrogant and domineering personality, Lin Yi's intuition told him that he should not be the type of person who liked to play tricks. If he wanted to deal with him, there was no need for him to take such a big detour and even use such a sensitive person as Shanghai Laner to make an issue. Chapter 40-42. If he could reason with him and move him emotionally, he might be able to fight for a chance to escape when Ram Jie questioned him. However, Lin Yi soon discovered that he had thought of all this too simply. After he was caught, he was directly locked in the dungeon, and Ram Jie did not show up from the beginning to the end, nor did he give him any chance to speak. Being locked in the cold and dark dungeon without any response, Lin Yi was completely helpless. In the past, when Shanghai Laner was still here, he could still be rescued if he was locked in. But now that Shangguan Laner was missing, he could not even protect himself. Who would come to help him? As for senior brother Ku Bai and the others, their weight was simply not enough. They could not even enter the dungeon, let alone be of any help. Just when Lin Yi was at a loss of what to do, the dungeon door suddenly opened, and a burst of dense footsteps approached from afar, stopping only when they reached the door of his dungeon. Lin Yi could not help but secretly speculate in his heart. Looking at this posture, Could it be that Ram Jia was finally ready to interrogate him? At this moment, not far from the door, an old but dignified voice sounded, "Open the door, all of you go out, this old man wants to see him alone." Lin Yi was slightly stunned until he saw the face of the person who came, and was immediately shocked. Although the other party was only wearing an extremely ordinary yellow robe, and at first glance, he was just an ordinary old man, but the aura that was revealed from his every movement was inexplicably awe-inspiring, and even could not help but give birth to a trace of the impulse to surrender. The person who came was actually Shangguan Laner's grandfather, Soaring Sky Pavilion's pavilion master, Shanghai Tianhua. Shangguan Tianhua swept his gaze across the prison cell. It was filled with filthy and smelly things. There were even all sorts of venomous snakes and venomous insects entrenched in them. He smiled faintly and said, "After so many years, this brat Gong Yangjie still likes to do this. I wonder where he got so many venomous creatures." After saying that, Shanghai Tianhua used his feet to clear away a pile of moldy straw. There were also a few venomous snakes entrenched on it. They sat on the ground without a care and waved at Lin Yi. "Don't just stand there. Sit down and talk." This was not the first time that Lin Yi had seen Shanghai Tianhua, but compared to the high and mighty image of the big shot at the birthday party last time, the one in front of him was. He had clearly changed into another kind of temperament, a kind of amiable temperament like that of an old man next door. The pressure from before had also disappeared in an instant. Lin Yi stared blankly for a long while before he walked over and respectfully greeted, "This disciple is Lin Yi." "Greetings, Pavilion Master Shangguan." Shanghai Tianhua nodded and gestured for Lin Yi to sit down before saying, "At the last birthday party, I still remember that you gave little Lan, 2 supreme-grade foundation building pills. As a newcomer, you gave such a precious gift. You are very thoughtful. I thank you on behalf of little Lan, Pavilion Master Shangguan is too kind. Little senior sister has taken good care of this disciple. Giving her a little gift to express my sincerity is what I should do." Lin Yi had already calmed down and restored his usual calm composure. Shanghai Tianhua couldn't help but secretly look up to Lin Yi. With his status and strength, not to mention a mere newcomer, even the higher-ups of the 3 pavilions would tremble in front of him. But this Lin Yi could recover in such a short time. He was really a heroic youth. Shanghai Tianhua had always had a unique eye for people. Simple words and actions were enough to see a person's background and talent in his eyes. As far as this old man knows. You are a newcomer in Blue Cloud Pavilion, and little Lan has never been to the Welcome Pavilion. There shouldn't be any interaction between the two of you. How did you get to know her?" Shanghai Tianhua didn't directly ask about Shangguan Laner's disappearance. Instead, he asked in a casual tone, without the air of a high and mighty pavilion master. Was he testing me to see if I had any intentions? Lin Yi didn't relax in the slightest. He immediately replied truthfully, "The first time I met little senior sister was actually because of the little curly bear. It sneaked out and happened to be met by this disciple. At that time, I didn't know why it was injured. In the end, little senior sister misunderstood that this disciple kidnapped it. Little Lan, is simple. No matter what she does, she takes it for granted. Little White is her heart, so it's normal for you to be misunderstood by her. Because of Little White, this old man has been misunderstood and blamed by her." Shanghai Tianhua laughed heartily. Even in this gloomy and cold dungeon where no daylight could be seen, sitting next to him still felt like a spring breeze caressing one's face. It made one unconsciously trust and feel close to him. Could this be the legendary personal charm? Lin Yi was secretly shocked. With the growth of his strength and vision, he now gradually looked at people differently from before. In the past, he looked at external strength, but now he paid more attention to internal strength. A truly powerful person must be able to intimidate the common people from the inside out. This point could be confirmed by many great figures. The pavilion master of Soaring Sky Pavilion in front of him was a clear proof. Last time, during the birthday banquet, Little Lon said that Su Lingchong had ill intentions towards her, but in the end, his manhood was cut off by Little Bai in a drunken frenzy state. You should have played a part in that, right? Shangguan Tianhua asked meaningfully. As a grandfather, he didn't ask Shangguan Laner about this matter from beginning to end. The information he knew was limited to the confession that Shangguan Laner said in the law enforcement hall. However, these matters, even if he didn't openly ask, he could still easily deduce. After all, at that time, when Lin Yi followed Shangguan Laner upstairs, this was something that many people saw. Lin Yi didn't deny it. He nodded and said, "That's right. At that time, the situation was urgent and I couldn't care too much. I could only choose to attack Su Lingchong. Fortunately, he didn't succeed. With your strength, it's really hard for you to be able to restrain Su Lingchong, who is at the great perfection of foundation establishment." Shanghai Tianhua smiled and suddenly asked, "Then, do you like Little Lon?" Huh? Lin Yi was immediately stunned. To suddenly ask such an abrupt question, and the other party was the dignified pavilion master of Soaring Sky Pavilion. No matter how he thought about it, this situation was a little strange. After a moment, under the gaze of Shanghai Tianhua, Lin Yi answered truthfully, "About this, I do indeed have a slight feeling. But before I came to Heaven's Stage Island, I already had a girlfriend." Moreover, more than one. When faced with this answer, Lin Yi originally thought that the pavilion master would burst into a rage. After all, Shanghai Laner was the pavilion master's beloved daughter. Just based on their identities, they were already completely incompatible. Not to mention that he had so many confidants. If it was any other parent, they would probably ask him to stay away from his granddaughter. Chapter 40-43. Don't be fooled by Shanghai Tianhua's gentle appearance at the moment. According to Murongzhen's report, Lin Yi was currently a serious suspect in the kidnapping of Shanghai Laner. If there was no solid evidence, no matter how highly Shanghai Tianhua regarded Lin Yi, it was impossible for him to easily let go of this newcomer who was suspected of kidnapping his only granddaughter. There was only one thing that Shanghai Tianhua was most concerned about, and that was how to find his precious granddaughter. This was the reason why he condescended to see Lin Yi. Otherwise, as the dignified Soaring Pavilion master, it was impossible for him to appear in such a place. Actually, disciple already knows where little senior sister is. Lin Yi said slowly. Oh. Shangguan Tianhua was startled. No matter what method Lin Yi used to prove his innocence, it wouldn't be surprising at all. The fact that he knew Shangguan Laner's location was rather surprising. If Pavilion Master Shangguan doesn't mind, disciple can lead the way, but you have to let me out first. Lin Yi said with a burning gaze. Shanghai Tianhua took a deep look at Lin Yi and nodded. Well, this old man will do as you wish. If it was someone else, even if it was Su Yuanzheng, a big shot in the Elders Guild, he would not dare to pat his chest and say that he could easily take Lin Yi out of here. After all, this was Ram Jie's territory. Without Ram Jie's approval, no one could take anyone away. However, Shangguan Tianhua was not one of them. Not only was he the pavilion master of the Soaring Sky Pavilion, he was also the one who had helped and guided Gong Yangjie. If there was anyone in the three great pavilions who could intimidate Gong Yangjie, he, Shangguan Tianhua, would definitely be at the top of the list. Sure enough, with a simple order from Shanghai Tianhua, Ram Jie did not have any objections and directly nodded to do as he was told. From being locked in the dungeon. It had only been a short 2 hours since he saw the light of day again, but Lin Yi felt as if a lifetime had passed. If it weren't for Shanghai Tianhua, and if Ram Jie hadn't ignored him from the beginning to the end, he would have been exhausted to death in the dark dungeon that was isolated from the world. That was not an impossibility. Fortunately, he finally came out. Lin Yi stretched himself. It hasn't been too long. Hopefully, Shanghai Laner is still alive and well. How do we go? Shangguan Tianhua asked from behind. Even with his calmness as the top boss of the three great pavilions, in the face of his precious granddaughter's safety, he had to be calm. He could not help but feel a little worried. Lin Yi looked around before his gaze fell on a flying spirit beast from the law enforcement hall in the distance. He pursed his lips and said, "That place is a little far. We need it to give us a ride." "Okay." Shangguan Tianhua immediately led Lin Yi and the two of them stepped on the flying spirit beast. Without saying a word, they soared into the sky, leaving the law enforcement hall experts looking at each other. Lin Yi was an important suspect, and without the protection of the enforcement hall's experts, he was taken away by Shangguan Tianhua just like that. That was clearly illogical. However, the other party was the master of the soaring pavilion, and if he wanted to do something, even the hall master Gong Yangjia had no choice but to obey. If they, the underlings, were to point fingers or even want to intervene, they would simply be courting death. However, the one who was in trouble was Shanghai Laner. Speaking of which, it was also Shanghai Tianhua's family affairs. Although he was suspected of exceeding his authority by doing so, he could not be blamed. While the law enforcement hall experts watched the two of them leave, this scene also fell into the eyes of Murongzhen. As an important informant and witness, she still remained in the law enforcement hall to assist in the investigation. It was just that she was not strictly restricted. Murongzhen was suddenly shocked. She did not know why Shanghai Tianhua took Lin Yi out alone. However, judging from the direction of the flying spirit beast, it was clearly going straight to the dilapidated martial arts practice field where she and Kong Mingming kidnapped Shanghai Laner. There was no time to think about the reason. Murongzhen hurriedly left the law enforcement hall secretly, ran to a secluded place, and sent a message by eagle to Kong Mingming, who was far away on the other side of the North Island. Shanghai Tianhua is suspected to be able to sense Shanghai Laner's location. He has come here with Lin Yi by flying spirit beast. Let's go. Looking at the scribbled note in his hand, Kong Mingming was so scared that he almost had a heart attack. Cha Wu, who was beside him, was so scared that his face turned pale. They kidnapped Shanghai Laner as a follow-up action of the previous rumor. They just wanted to frame Lin Yi. However, they never thought that Shanghai Tianhua, the master of Rising Sky Pavilion, would come in person. With their insignificant strength, they could not even face Lin Yi, let alone Shanghai Tianhua, a top boss with great magic power. If they were really targeted by him, they would not even know how they died. The speed of the messenger eagle is not much faster than that of the flying spirit beast. Deacon Kong, we'd better run for our lives. Otherwise, we'll be doomed. Cha Wu hurriedly advised. The fear in Kong Xiaoming's heart wasn't much better than Cha Wu's. Although he didn't want his meticulously planned kidnapping plan to fail just like that, his life was more important. Shangguan Tianhua and Lin Yi would arrive at the scene in the next moment, and that would be the end of him. Wait. Even if we want to run, we can't just run like this. According to what I'm going to say, you should go to Shanghai Laner quickly and shout like this, and then run. Kong Mingming suddenly said. At this point, he absolutely did not dare to take Shanghai Laner away. What if Murongzhen was right and the other party could sense Shanghai Laner's location? However, Kong Mingming still had some tricks up his sleeve. Even if he couldn't take Shanghai Laner away, he could still shout a few words to confuse them. Although Cha Wu was extremely reluctant, he did not dare to argue with Kong Mingming at this time. The more he delayed, the more dangerous it would be. He could only bite the bullet and do as he was told. Cha Wu hurriedly ran to the broken martial arts field. He suppressed the fear in his heart and said to Miss Shanghai Laner in a low voice, "Miss Shangguan, the boss said that he kidnapped you this time to show a hero saving the beauty. So later, he will come to save you personally so that he can show off in front of your grandfather. Don't be fooled by him. This is all directed by him." Shanghai Laner raised her eyelids, and her long eyelashes suddenly blinked twice. She said, "What do you mean? I don't understand." "It means that Boss Lin Yi will come to save you later, but in fact, he is pretending. He wants to show a hero saving the beauty. Cha Wu explained helplessly. Save me? Then why is he pretending? Shanghai Laner asked curiously. Cha Wu was going crazy at this moment. Time was running out, and this lady's brain seemed to be not bright enough to understand him. He could only shout, anyway, you just need to remember that Lin Yi is a liar. Chapter 40-44. Cha Wu left helplessly. He didn't know if Shanghai Laner really understood what he said. Anyway, after meeting with Kang Ming, the two of them could no longer care about anything else and immediately fled in embarrassment. Not long after the two of them escaped, Shanghai Tianhua and Lin Yi immediately descended from the sky. If Kang Ming dilly-dallied any longer, they would really not be able to escape. With Shanghai Tianhua's powerful perception, he had already locked the position of his precious granddaughter in the sky. The two of them went straight into the broken martial arts arena. When Shanghai Laner saw this, she immediately said happily, Grandpa, junior brother, you finally came to save me. Although she was kidnapped this time, she did not suffer any substantial pain from beginning to end. She could also see that these kidnappers had ulterior motives and did not dare to really hurt her. But after all, she was in a crisis. Especially at the beginning, she was still quite frightened. Otherwise, Lin Yi would not have been able to sense her position through the mother-child necklace. Seeing that Shanghai Laner was not injured, Shanghai Tianhua's originally hanging heart finally fell to the ground. He turned to Lin Yi and asked curiously, how do you know Lan Er's position? Looking at the three pavilions of the North Island, Shanghai Tianhua's strength could be said to be at the peak, and the exploration range of his divine awareness was also extremely wide. But Shanghai Laner was kidnapped so far away that even he could not lock her position. On the other side, Lin Yi untied the rope made of sea beast tendons on Shanghai Laner's body. He smiled slightly and said, I happened to cast 2 mother-child necklaces a few days ago, and one of them was given to senior sister apprentice. When there is a crisis, there will be a genuine chi fluctuation, so I know. When Shanghai Tianhua heard this, he was amazed and said, I have heard that you are an alchemist before, but I didn't expect that you are also a blacksmith. As a newcomer, you can be so versatile. You are a rare genius in the 3 pavilions. Pavilion Master Shengguan is overpraising me. I only know a little about this. Lin Yi smiled reservedly. You're neither arrogant nor rash. That's rare. Blacksmiths are rarely seen in our soaring sky pavilion. To be able to forge such a mystical necklace is even rarer. Shangguan Tianhua nodded approvingly, and then suddenly asked with a playful expression, but I heard that this mother-child necklace has always been a gift between lovers. Why did you give it to little Lan? This. Lin Yi was embarrassed and didn't know what to say. If he said that he didn't have any thoughts towards this senior sister of his, then he was clearly deceiving himself. Otherwise, he wouldn't have given her a mother-child necklace. However, if one were to say that he was really interested in Shangguan Laner, that was not entirely the case. It was just that he had a good impression of her in his heart and they had a good friendship. At this time, Shangguan Laner stood up and hugged Shangguan Tianhua's arm and said, Grandpa, little junior brother and I have a deep sibling relationship. It's much closer than lovers. We're friends of life and death. When Shangguan Tianhua heard this, he immediately laughed heartily. He laughed heartily. Haha, good. However, while laughing, Shangguan Tianhua clearly looked at Lin Yi with a deep meaning. Some words. He just didn't say it out loud. Seeing this, Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Looking at the expression of this pavilion master Shangguan, it seemed that he had been misunderstood. However, this kind of thing couldn't be explained face to face. Maybe he would think that the explanation was a cover-up, and it would become more and more chaotic, so he could only remain silent. Little Lan, did you see the appearance of those robbers who kidnapped you? Shangguan Tianhua asked. Shangguan Laner shook her head. No, they were all in black and their faces were covered tightly. I couldn't see what they looked like at all. Although she said so, she could still guess the identity of the other party from the previous strange words and deeds of these people, but she didn't want to tell Shangguan Tianhua. After all, there would be no suspense and it would not be fun at all. Well, it seems that the follow-up arrest can only be handed over to the law enforcement hall. However, little Lon, you have to remember. You can't run around like this in the future, okay? This time, fortunately, Lin Yi brought me here in time, and nothing serious happened. Next time, you won't be so lucky. Shangguan Tianhua reprimanded with a straight face. I know. This time, if it weren't for Little White running out to steal wine to drink, I wouldn't have been so easily kidnapped by them. Shangguan Laner pouted. When she said this, the loud snoring of the little curly bear came from the corner. The three of them were stunned for a moment, and then they laughed at the same time. After making a fuss for a long time, it turned out that the little curly bear, the fuse, was still drunk and sleeping. From the beginning to the end, he didn't know about the kidnapping at all. When he woke up, everything was over. It was really a dumb bear's dumb luck. Facing this little fellow, they really didn't know whether to be angry or laugh. Shangguan Tianhua shook his head helplessly. Seeing that there was no one around, it was meaningless to continue to stay here. He immediately called Lin Yi and Shangguan Laner to board the flying spiritual beast and set off to return to the three major pavilions. The return of Shangguan Tianhua and the other two immediately caused a sensation in the law enforcement hall. Since Shangguan Laner had returned unscathed and could testify that Lin Yi wasn't the culprit who kidnapped her, the suspicion on Lin Yi was naturally cleared. There was no need for him to return to that dark and gloomy dungeon. On the contrary, Murongzhen, the person who came forward to report him, was going to get into big trouble this time. Framing Lin Yi was only a small matter, but providing false information to mislead the law enforcement hall was the real problem. If they really wanted to investigate, even if Murongzhen didn't die this time, she would at least lose a layer of skin. She went for wool and came home shorn. No matter how she tried to exonerate herself with flowery words, she was going to be the scapegoat anyway. Of course, investigating Murongzhen was the law enforcement hall's business. It had nothing to do with Lin Yi. If he wanted to take revenge, he could only do it in private. It was purely a personal grudge. As for reporting to the law enforcement hall, he had no interest in that. Firstly, there was no evidence. Secondly, Lin Yi didn't want to be too close to the people of the law enforcement hall. He followed Shanghai Tianhua out of the law enforcement hall. Before they parted, Shanghai Tianhua suddenly stopped and turned to Lin Yi. He said, "This time, I owe you another favor. In the future, if you need anything, you can come to the Soaring Sky Pavilion directly to find me." After that, Shanghai Tianhua took the reluctant Shangguan Laner and the little curly bear and quickly disappeared from sight, leaving Lin Yi alone in a daze. In the three great pavilions of the northern island, Shangguan Tianhua's favor was a priceless treasure that no amount of spiritual jade could buy. If it were anyone else who had heard his promise, they would have been so excited that they would have forgotten themselves. Chapter 40-45. Does she really think highly of me, or is she hinting to me that this thing is just treated as a favor, and not to think too much, so that I can keep a distance from Shangguan Laner in the future? No one could give Lin Yi an answer to this question. He could only suppress it in his heart for the time being, and leave it to the future to prove it. At present, there was only one thing that needed his attention most, and that was the casting plan that was already on the bow. On the other hand, after the kidnapping incident, Shanghai Laner was directly grounded after being taken home by Shanghai Tianhua, and even the little curly bear was strictly ordered not to step out of the house. 2, 3, W, X. With this lesson, no matter how hard Shanghai Laner racked her brains, she couldn't find an excuse to go out in a short time. However, what made Shanghai Tianhua quite helpless was that even if she was locked up at home, she couldn't expect Shanghai Laner to concentrate on her cultivation. In addition to playing with the little curly bear, she also had to take time to write letters to her best friend outside the North Island. She was very busy. Her best friend was the daughter of the owner of West Island, Ning Shuefei. Birds of a feather flock together. Except for an extremely special case like Lin Yi, with Shanghai Laner's family background, even if she didn't have the temper and airs of a rich lady, ordinary people were destined not to be her close friends. They were at different levels, and they couldn't talk to each other as equals. Naturally, there was no pure friendship. And in the whole 3 pavilions of North Island, there were very few people whose family background could be compared with that of Shanghai Laner. If the target was further locked on girls of the same age, it would be even more difficult to find them. Therefore, almost all of Shanghai Laner's best friends were on the outer island, and Ning Shuefei was the closest one among them. Different from North Island, West Island was not only a gathering place for female cultivators, but it still retained the legacy of the ancient matriarchal clan, and everything was decided by women. However, these female cultivators were very powerful, and they were not any weaker than the forces of the other sub-islands. Ning Shuefei's mother was the island lord of West Island. In the 5 great islands of heaven rank, powerhouses came forth in large numbers and experts were as numerous as the clouds. Being able to become the master of an island, even if it wasn't the middle island, meant that she was one of the few experts of the 5 great islands of heaven rank. Moreover, she was a woman, yet she was able to become an overlord. The difficulty of this could be imagined. In the ancient secular world, this island master of West Island was comparable to the Empress Wu Zetian, a legendary existence revered by countless people. Strictly speaking, Ning Shuefei's background was even more powerful than Shanghai Laner's. Of course, the main reason why the two of them could become best friends was that their personalities were compatible. As for his family background, they didn't care about it at all. A while ago, Ning Shuefei wrote a letter saying that she was going to the far North Island to attend the auction. Shanghai Laner thought that she would come to the North Island to play with her. However, her best friend didn't come, and she always felt regretful. This time, in reply to Ning Shuefei's letter, Shanghai Laner told her all the depressing things that had happened to her recently, from the birthday party to the kidnapping this time. She said all of them in one go. Anyway, she was grounded at home and had nothing to do, so she simply shared them with her best friend. It was really hard for her, a young lady who claimed that she couldn't write. After a whole day of writing, she wrote a lot of papers and finally roughly said all these things. She sent them out unwillingly. A few days later, Shanghai Laner received Ning Shuefei's reply, and the content of the letter made her jump with joy. In the letter, Ning Shuefei said that she had gotten her mother's permission to come to the North Island to play with her. Like Shanghai Laner, Ning Shuefei had very few best friends. Now, after hearing all the things that had happened to Shanghai Laner, as her best friend, she naturally had to come and comfort her. As for the research of the automatic casting mechanism, naturally, her other best friend, Han Jingjing, would take over. Because she was grounded at home by her grandfather, Shanghai Laner was now depressed. But now, her mood was finally lifted again. Middle Island, Alchemy Hall. Recently, there were 2 things that attracted the most attention in Alchemy Hall. One was the death of Jing Tianjie, and the other was the Minghan between Tian Chan and Jing Tianjie. She was at the age of a flower and wearing a charming bride's dress. Every girl who loved to dream would think of such a scene many times. Even a cultivator who was infinitely close to becoming an extraordinary immortal would probably have the same thought at this time. They would only envy the mandarin ducks, not the immortals. However, what if the Mr. Right in front of her was a cold corpse? With the contrast of Jing Tianjie's cold corpse, the more beautiful Tian Chan was, the more pitiful she looked in the eyes of others. Even those who did not have much of a relationship with her could not help but sigh for her. If it were any other girl, no matter how bad the other party was, people would at most say that it was a flower stuck in a pile of cow dung. But Tian Chan, the Mr. Right, was not even comparable to a pile of cow dung in the eyes of ordinary people. However, this was only the opinion of others. Tian Chan was very satisfied with this. Although the Minghan with a dead person sounded very horrifying, as Jing Tianjie's widow, Tian Chan had a lot of benefits. Not only would there not be anyone who did not have eyes to harass her, but her status in the alchemy hall would also rise. Without so many complicated cultivation tasks and the need to participate in the alchemy hall's routine cultivation, compared to before the Ming Hun, Tian Chan's life was much more peaceful. Deep in the core of the alchemy hall, there was an extremely special room. Inside lived a strange patient. Originally, with Tian Chan's identity as a normal disciple, she naturally could not enter easily. But now, whenever she was free, she would come to visit this person. "Grandfather, how are you feeling today?" Tian Chan appeared at the door of the room again and greeted respectfully with a smile. A slightly hoarse voice quickly came from inside the room. "I am not your grandfather. I have no relationship with the Tian family in the secular world. You do not have to purposely curry favor with me. I am now a cripple. No matter how much you try to curry favor with me, it is useless. Jing Dongjue will not listen to me. If you want me to help you break off the engagement, you better give up." Tian Chan smiled slightly and said, "Grandfather, no matter what, you are Chan Er's elder. Don't talk about elder. I am not your elder. It is hard to say whose seniority is between the two of us. Who knows, you might even be my sister," the hoarse voice said impatiently. Chapter 40-46. This person was actually the once famous Vice Island Master of Heavenly Stage Island. He was the legendary figure who had gone mad because he had cultivated the creation battle art. His meridians had been severed, and he was Tian Xing. Tracing back to their ancestry, the Will of Heaven and Tian Chan were actually from the same lineage, but 1,000 years ago, the Will of Heaven had used a special method to move to Heaven-class island by chance. However, they had always lived in a practitioner's tribe, and there had never been any outstanding practitioners in their family. The lifespan of the tribesmen was similar to that of ordinary people, so it was hard to calculate the seniority. According to what the Will of Heaven said, perhaps Tian Chan's seniority might really be higher than his, but with his age, it was natural for Tian Chan to call him senior. The Will of Heaven had a close personal relationship with Zhang Liju, and after he went insane, he had been recuperating in the elixir hall, but it didn't have much effect. The meridians in his body had long been broken into hundreds and thousands of pieces, and it was already a miracle that he was still alive. If he wanted to reconnect them, even with Zhang Liju's miraculous medical skills, he wouldn't be able to do it. "I'm not the Vice Island Master. Do you think a lunatic like me would believe me if I said I was the Vice Island Master? You don't have to think about climbing up to the rich and powerful, and don't try to climb up to me, your relative. It's useless anyway, it's not as prestigious as Jing Dongjue's granddaughter-in-law. Alright, leave the medicine there, you can leave." As usual, the Will of Heaven didn't open the door and directly asked him to leave. The Will of Heaven used to be the Vice Island Master of Heaven-class island, a pinnacle figure who looked down on all living beings, but that was all in the past. Now, he was just a cripple who couldn't even take care of himself. With his strange and crazy temper, no one was willing to serve him, and they didn't even bother to look at him. But Tian Chan didn't show any displeasure, and shook her head helplessly. Placing the medicine at the door, she respectfully bowed and said, "All right, Chan will come visit Senior in a few days. Chan will take her leave first." In the room, the disheveled the Will of Heaven had a strange and helpless look in his turbid eyes when he heard this. No matter how crazy he was, a person's heart was still made of flesh and blood, especially when he was in his most miserable and dejected state. A friend in need is a friend indeed. Whether Tian Chan treated him sincerely or not, could he really not see it at all? What was the use of seeing through him? He was just a cripple with broken meridians. If he was thrown on the street, he wouldn't even be as good as a beggar. What could he do? The room was silent for a long time. Suddenly, the crazy laughter of the Will of Heaven rang out again. Coming out of the room of the Will of Heaven, Tian Chan couldn't help but feel a bit worried. She came to the heavenly island and was able to see her blood-related elders. This was such a blessing, but the current state of the Will of Heaven really made her unable to feel happy. She hadn't walked 2 steps when a young man in white suddenly walked over from the corridor. After seeing Tian Chan, his eyes suddenly lit up and he greeted with a smile, "Sister-in-law, you went to see Elder Heaven again." Seeing this person, Tian Chan's eyes turned cold. A trace of disgust flashed across her face as she replied coldly, "Yes." This young man in white was called Jing Tianchu. He was Jing Tianjie's cousin. In terms of status, Tian Chan still had to call him brother-in-law. Jing Tianjie, who had high hopes on him, died tragically halfway. There were rumors in the streets that Jing Dongjue had already begun to shift his attention to Jing Tianchu. He intended to train him to replace Jing Tianjie's original position and become the person in charge of the Jing family in the future. In terms of strength, Jing Tianchu and Jing Tianjie couldn't be compared at all. Although he had the halo of Jing Dongjue's grandson, the entire Pill Hall didn't take him seriously. He could only be regarded as a small character on the edge. But now it was different. Jing Tianchu had become Jing Dongjue's favorite person. He immediately began to act arrogantly. Now it could be said that he was in the limelight and had the posture of becoming Jing Tianjie's second. However, all this had nothing to do with Tian Chan. She hated the Jing family from the bottom of her heart and didn't even want to say a word more. "Elder Heaven must have given you face again, right? Sister-in-law, your character is too virtuous. If it was someone else, they wouldn't be willing to serve a crazy old man like this. Why do you want to get angry for no reason? Why don't I accompany you the next time sister-in-law goes?" Jing Tianchu continued to say with a smile. Tian Chan looked at him indifferently and said, "No need. If there's nothing else, I'll go back first." After saying that, Tian Chan didn't want to bother with him anymore. She directly bypassed Jing Tianchu and left without looking back. Looking at Tian Chan's beautiful and graceful back, Jing Tianchu couldn't help but have a trace of lust in his eyes. He pinched his chin with one hand and sneered, "Still pretending to be a chaste woman in front of me? Well, the more character a woman has, the more interesting it will be to play with her in the future. There's nothing more delicious than dumplings, and nothing more fun than..." Hey, sister-in-law. With Tian Chan's current status as a widow, she was already a cooked duck in Jing Tianchu's eyes. She couldn't escape from his palm at all. As long as he sat firmly in the position of the Jing family's young master, this beautiful sister-in-law would surrender to him sooner or later. Thinking of the beauty, Jing Tianchu couldn't help laughing. He couldn't help but praise his cousin Jing Tianjie in his heart. It was really a good time to die. Law Enforcement Hall, North Island. Shanghai Laner came back unscathed. This time, the crisis, which was obviously aimed at Lin Yi, was solved without any attack. On the contrary, Murong Zhen, the informant, was now in huge trouble. There were risks when she came forward rashly. When Kang Mingming asked her to report Lin Yi, she had already had this bad feeling. But at that time, Shanghai Laner didn't cooperate in every way, and Kang Mingming obviously didn't want to show up. Cha Wu, a fence-sitter, was not reliable at all. She was purely forced to bite the bullet and do it in person. Now, she failed to frame Lin Yi and was hurt. The bad feeling became a reality. Lin Yi went out with Shanghai Tianhua in a carefree and easy way. Murong Zhen, the informant, became a prisoner, locked in a dirty and smelly dungeon, with no one to answer her calls. Murong Zhen couldn't help but tremble with fear when she thought of the cruel methods of the Law Enforcement Hall. She had a guilty conscience, and she was a woman. No matter how treacherous and ruthless she was on the outside, once she was in this underground prison where she couldn't see the light of day, it wouldn't be strange if she was scared to the point of becoming a lunatic after a long period of time. Chapter 40-47. With the existence of the soul-searching skill, lying to the Law Enforcement Hall was simply courting death. Murong Zhen's heart sank to the bottom the moment she was captured by the powerhouses of the Law Enforcement Hall and locked in the dungeon. She knew that she was done for this time. Even if she had the slightest bit of luck, it would only be wishful thinking. It was a matter of great importance. Although Shang Wanlan had been rescued safely, it was a terrible thing to kidnap the first young lady of the Soaring Sky Pavilion. The law enforcement hall would definitely investigate this matter to the end, and she, the suspicious informant, was a ready-made breakthrough. Finally, amidst her extreme anxiety and panic, the tragic fate that Murong-zhen had been waiting for finally arrived. The people from the law enforcement hall had come to interrogate her. Even though Murong-zhen had already prepared his words in his head, he was not confident that his words would be able to fool the people from the law enforcement hall. She silently followed the people from the law enforcement hall all the way. With every step she took, Murong-zhen felt that she was one step closer to death. The despair brought about by this kind of dead end directly crushed her last bit of nerves. She suddenly squatted on the ground and began to wail loudly. The other prisoners in the dungeons around them all looked at each other excitedly, and frivolous whistles could be heard continuously. The law enforcement hall's experts were stunned. They looked at each other and turned to look at her. They scolded, "If you want to cry, cry outside. The dungeon is not a place for you to make a scene." Outside? Murong-zhen stopped crying. She looked up at the law enforcement hall's experts with tears in her eyes. "Don't you want to interrogate me?" The two law enforcement hall's experts laughed. "According to the rules, we were supposed to interrogate you. However, hall leader Gong Yang told us not to make things difficult for the informant. Otherwise, who would dare to provide clues for the law enforcement hall in the future? Therefore, we're not going to interrogate you now. We're going to let you out." Really? Murong-zhen was overjoyed. She had been in despair, but now she had a new lease of life. She was so happy that her head was dizzy. "Of course it's true. Do you think the law enforcement hall is so free that we have so much time to play with you? Are you done crying? If you're done crying, get up." The law enforcement hall's experts were speechless. At the same time, they shouted at the top of their lungs to calm down the other prisoners in the dungeon. If it wasn't for the fact that Murong-zhen was a beautiful woman, he would not have been able to do anything to her. He had already impatiently sent a kick over. Yes, this little girl will get up now." After making such a blunder, Murong-zhen's face couldn't help but blush in embarrassment. However, she was secretly puzzled in her heart. When did Gong Yangjie become so generous? For so many years. The law enforcement hall under the command of Ram Jia had always been known for its coldness and brutality. Those who were caught and brought here, even if they were innocent, would at least lose half of their lives. The number of people who had died in the law enforcement hall in the past 10 years was more than the number of people who had died in the previous 100 years. Logically speaking, there seemed to be nothing wrong with what he said just now, but it really didn't seem like Ram Jia's style. Moreover, he knew his own business. Now that the person involved, Shangguan Laner, had returned, Murong-zhen's so-called report was simply full of doubts. Could Ram Jia really not see through it at all? She was completely bewildered. After Murong-zhen came out of the law enforcement hall, she went straight back to the welcome pavilion. Kang Mingming had already been waiting for her in her wooden house. "Miss Murong, that's great. You're finally back." Seeing that she came back safe and sound, Kang Mingming immediately breathed a sigh of relief. Seeing that Kang Mingming cared about her so much, Murong-zhen couldn't help but feel touched. Previously, because he forced her to take the risk to go to the law enforcement hall to report Lin Yi, her resentment also dissipated a lot. But Murong-zhen was also a scheming woman after all. Just by glancing at Kang Mingming's happy expression, she quickly realized that this guy showed up here not because he cared about her at all. The reason why Kang Mingming stayed here was that he wanted to know Murong-zhen's fate as soon as possible, so that he could judge whether he should stay or leave. The reason why Kang Mingming stayed here was that he wanted to know Murong-zhen's fate as soon as possible, so that he could decide whether he should stay or leave. Seeing that Murong-zhen's expression was cold, Kang Mingming choked and continued to smile. "I heard that Miss Murong was locked up in the law enforcement hall's dungeon. I was so worried. Now that I see that you're safe and sound, I can finally be at ease." Deacon Kong has to be on tenterhooks. This beauty is truly flattered. However, it is all thanks to Hall Leader Gong Yang that I was able to leave the law enforcement hall unscathed this time. If it wasn't for him speaking up for me, we would have been completely wiped out this time. Murongzhen suppressed the resentment in her heart and pretended to be mysterious as she said this to keep everyone in suspense. As expected, Kong Mingming's eyelids twitched when he heard that. He quickly asked, all thanks to Hall Leader Ram? Ram Jie speaking up for you? What's your relationship with him? Even a young master like Su Lingchong would find it hard to speak up for a powerful and overbearing person like Ram Jie. How could he stand up for a mere Murongzhen? Who knows? As the saying goes, even heroes have a weakness for the charms of a beautiful woman. After all, the three great pavilions have more men than women. No matter how powerful and overbearing Hall Leader Ram Jie is, he's still a man full of vigor. Officer Kong, what do you think? Murongzhen deliberately gave him a coquettish look. She knew that it was pure wishful thinking for her to hook up with a person like Ram Jie with her beauty alone. However, she used the tiger's skin to play up the tiger's flag. By vaguely exaggerating her relationship with Ram Jie, she wouldn't offend anyone. At the same time, she could also use it to deter Kong Mingming. She wouldn't have to be the scapegoat if something happened to him in the future. I guess so. Kong Mingming was a little uncertain now. All men were lustful. He was a clear proof. If Ram Jie really liked Murongzhen, then he would have to reconsider his attitude towards Murongzhen in the future. What should we do now? The kidnapping incident hasn't passed yet. If we want to deal with Lin Yi, it won't be easy. Kong Mingming said half helplessly and half tentatively. Murongzhen glanced at him and shrugged. She backed off and said, "Don't look at me. I have no other choice now. If I continue to commit crimes against the public, it'll be too risky. I can't bear it. But if we just let Lin Yi do whatever he wants, would you be able to take it lying down, Miss Murong?" Kong Xiaoming wasn't willing to give up. Even if I can't swallow it, what else can I do? Murongzhen was also unwillingly. However, since things had developed to this point, she was already helpless against Lin Yi, who was getting stronger day by day. Suddenly, Murongzhen's eyes brightened. She suggested, 3 is better than 2. Why don't we ask Meng Tong to come and discuss it? Chapter 40-48. If it had been the previous idiot Meng Tong, the two of them wouldn't have paid any attention to him. However, after eating the Meridian heart-shattering pill, Meng Tong's strength had skyrocketed and his temperament had changed greatly. Especially since Meng Jueguang's sudden death, he had been in a state of seclusion and had become somewhat unfathomable. Maybe he would be a good help. Meng Tong and Lin Yi's grudge was as deep as theirs. They were natural allies, and there was no doubt that he was reliable. However, Meng Tong, whose temperament had become even weirder, only scolded them coldly after listening to their conversation. Idiots. Murongzhen and Kong Mingming could no longer hold back their disdain. They had always thought that their status was far above Meng Tong's, but now they were being looked down upon by someone who used to be a nobody. It was intolerable. However, just as their expressions changed, they immediately felt a violent and ferocious aura pressing down on top of their heads, causing them to be a little breathless. You're already in the middle stage of the foundation building realm? Kong Mingming and Murongzhen were shocked at the same time. They never thought that in such a short time, Meng Tong would be reborn and break through to the middle stage of the foundation building realm. When Murongzhen first came to the Welcome Pavilion, her strength was at the peak of the early stage of the foundation building realm. She was the only one who stood out. Someone like Meng Tong was nothing in her eyes. However, in just a few months, he had become a middle-stage foundation building realm powerhouse that she had to look up to. Strength determined the right to speak. If Meng Tong was still at the peak of the early stage of the foundation building realm, Murongzhen and Kong Mingming would have fallen out with him right away because of his disdain. However, he was now a middle-stage foundation-building realm powerhouse. His strength was completely above the two of them. That was a completely different story. Even if Murongzhen and Kang Mingming were unhappy, they could only endure it for now. Meng Tong ignored the two's shock and continued to say disdainfully, "With your meager strength, you can't even defeat me. How dare they kidnap Shangguan Laner and frame Lin Yi?" It was truly a miracle that they were able to survive until now unscathed. Yet, they still had the face to wonder how they could find them. Even Shangguan Tianhua has personally come out. Is it strange that such a powerful person has a way to find you? A series of merciless disdain and criticism. Both Murongzhen and Kang Xiaoming's faces turned red and they were speechless. Looking back, they realized that kidnapping Shangguan Laner was really an act of obsession. It was really lucky for them to be able to live until now. Kidnap Shangguan Laner. This idea was proposed by Miss Murong in the beginning. It has nothing to do with me. Kang Mingming cleared himself. From the beginning to the end, he only wanted to deal with Lin Yi, unlike Murongzhen, who had a personal grudge against Shanghai Laner. Murongzhen was so embarrassed that he could not speak for a long time. After a long time, he said with a straight face, "Since things have come to this, why are you still talking about these useless things? You have the time to blame each other. It's better to think about how to deal with Lin Yi next." Humph. Now Su Lingchong is gone, and so is Meng Jueguang. Our backers are all gone. What else can we do? Meng Tong snorted disdainfully. If it was Meng Tong in the past, he would have jumped out to challenge Lin Yi a long time ago when his strength skyrocketed to the middle stage of the foundation-building realm. He probably would not even bother to think about conspiracies. He just wanted to trample on Lin Yi to show off. However, his temperament had changed. He was no longer as stupid and naive as before. Instead, he had learned to endure. But we can't let Lin Yi go so easily. As long as we study him carefully, we can definitely find his weakness. Murongzhen said unwillingly. Kang Mingming. You and Lin Yi are old rivals in the secular world. You should know his weakness the best. Meng Tong turned around and asked. His grudge with Lin Yi was real. No matter how his temperament changed, if there was a chance to kill Lin Yi, he would definitely not let it go. Kang Mingming thought about it and pondered for a moment. Well, this guy is affectionate and likes to show off. Other than that, there seems to be nothing. Hey, I got it. Meng Tong and Murongzhen were excited at the same time. Say it. Lin Yi and Dongfang Badeo of Xuanji Pavilion are also rivals in the secular world. I heard that this old J8 lamp is doing well now. I will find him and think of a way together. Kang Mingming suggested. Although he had no friendship with Dongfang Badeo, the enemy of the enemy was a friend. Since they were all to deal with Lin Yi, naturally, the more people, the better. Meng Tong nodded and said, "That's good. By the way, also find Zhong Pingliang of your Chongtian Pavilion. We can't lose contact with these people just because Su Lingchong is gone. I think Zhong Pingliang is also a good person." Yes, how could I forget him in this kidnapping? If he was there at the beginning, we wouldn't need to find Sha Wu, this fence-sitter. Kang Mingming nodded again and again. In fact, it couldn't be said that he forgot. During this time, Kang Mingming had been hanging out with Murongzhen. At the beginning, he didn't call Zhong Pingliang purely because of the man's exclusive mentality. He didn't want Zhong Pingliang to take the opportunity to get too close to Murongzhen, this coquettish woman. But now, he couldn't care about these miscellaneous things. It was more important to deal with Lin Yi. Kang Mingming immediately set off to find Dongfang Badeo. He had the identity of a new deacon. Even if Su Lingchong, this big backer, was gone, he was still relatively popular in the Welcome Pavilion. Everyone had to give him some face. More than half a year had passed. Looking at all the newcomers of the Welcome Pavilion and the 3 pavilions, if you want to list the most famous and most glorious newcomers, Lin Yi was undoubtedly ranked first, Kang Ming was ranked second with the bonus of a new deacon, and the third person was Dongfang Badeo of Xuanji Pavilion. Although most of the people on Heaven's Stage Island looked down upon the cultivators from the secular world, it had been proven that every time a person was transported from the secular world, they might appear to be down and out because they were ostracized, but in the end, they would often become elites and stand above most of the local cultivators on Heaven's Stage Island. This was not surprising at all. Everyone who had the opportunity to come to the Heavenly Stage Island was a super elite selected from hundreds of millions of people in the secular world. Even if they couldn't compare with the top group of people on the Heavenly Stage Island, if it was just to compete with the ordinary practitioners on the Heavenly Stage Island, they were absolutely more than enough in terms of strength and shrewdness. If they encountered a little more opportunity, they could easily stand out. Chapter 40-49. For a long time, watching Lin Yi's brilliant performance, Dongfang Badeo said that he was not jealous at all. It was absolutely nonsense. Even in his dreams, he wanted to step on Lin Yi. It was a pity that he was in the mysterious pavilion and had no intersection with Lin Yi of the Blue Cloud Pavilion, and it was difficult to pose any threat to Lin Yi. This feeling of power but nowhere to use it could make people crazy. Kang Xiaoming and the others simply couldn't be bothered to pay attention to him because the mysterious pavilion stood them up during the voting for the new deacon. If it wasn't for Su Lingchong and the others losing their backing, they probably wouldn't even remember that such a figure existed until now. In the face of Kang Ming's visit, Dongfang Badeo showed great enthusiasm. Especially when he heard that they were going to join forces to deal with Lin Yi, he was extremely enthusiastic and agreed to join the team on the spot. Originally, Dongfang Badeo also had some intention of taking advantage of his seniority. He thought that after joining the team, he could at least be a person who gave orders. However, when he saw the strength of Meng Tong and Murongzhen, especially Meng Tong, a master in the middle stage of Zhuji realm, he suddenly shriveled. Dongfang Badeo did not dare to pretend and gave advice to everyone. The old men in our mysterious pavilion are self-contained and have a wide range of contacts. I heard a news related to Lin Yi a few days ago. I don't know if you have heard it. What news? Everyone asked. Lin Yi, that guy, seems to be preparing to cast recently. I heard from the old men in the mysterious pavilion that Lin Yi also followed Hong Zhong of the Hong's Chamber of Commerce to the auction in the extreme North Island. It seems that it was to bid for casting materials. I don't know where he got so many spirit jades to be so confident. Dongfang Badeo pinched his chin. Casting? Kang Ming's eyes suddenly brightened, and he said excitedly, "Isn't that just right? Let's go and destroy him. Even if we can't kill him, we will disgust him." Hearing this, Meng Tong and Murongzhen also nodded one after another. This idea sounded a bit small. But at the moment, they had no better way. What's more, if they let Lin Yi cast any magic weapon, and his strength soared, it was not a good thing for them. It turns out that, no wonder Lin Yi has been appearing and disappearing mysteriously during this time. Only then did Murongzhen come to a realization. Then, he said with a slight headache, "But if we're going to destroy it, we'll have to find the place where he forged the weapon first, right? It's like looking for a needle in a haystack with just the few of us. How are we supposed to find it?" Meng Tong thought for a moment and suddenly said, "Kang Ming. When you kidnapped him, you used a flying spiritual beast?" After hesitating for a while, they finally decided to stay put and let the flying spiritual beast fly back and forth in the sky, pretending to be busy. After a while, their eyes lit up at the same time. "He's out." However, Murongzhen was stunned. "That's not right. This person is not Lin Yi. Look at his face. He looks completely different from Lin Yi." Women were always more attentive. Although they were not very high from the ground, they were still at a high altitude to ensure that Lin Yi would not notice them. Looking down from above, the person was just a peanut. At most, they could determine the person's identity by the position of the body. Very few people would pay attention to the specific appearance like Murongzhen. However, after she said that, Meng Tong and Kang Mingming also realized that something was wrong. Although it was not very obvious, they could still see the difference if they looked carefully. It's really not Lin Yi. Damn it. This forest is so dense that there's not even a place to stand. Normally, there shouldn't be anyone here. Where did this guy come from? I was almost misled by him. If I had followed the wrong person, all my efforts would have been in vain. Meng Tong secretly rejoiced. At that moment, Kang Mingming suddenly slapped his thigh and said, "Wrong, wrong. This guy is Lin Yi. You've all been deceived by him." What do you mean? Meng Tong and Murongzhen were stunned at the same time. Chapter 40-50. That's right. I still remember the last time Southern Sky Gate and Yuzha deliberately called Lin Yi out. So that's what happened. If he really wanted to, it's not difficult for us cultivators to change a fake face at the last moment. Murongzhen also came to a sudden realization. Meng Tong's eyes lit up when he heard that. So, this guy is really Lin Yi? That's right, this place is so remote that no one would come here. Besides, forging is a matter of life and death. It's reasonable for him to change a fake identity for concealment. While they were talking, Lin Yi had gone directly to the secret base of the King of Rags. Now his mind was focused on forging, and he didn't notice the abnormality in the sky at all. Seeing that Lin Yi suddenly went into a hidden cave after walking around outside for a long time, Kang Mingming and the others were relieved and said excitedly, "This is definitely right, this cave should be the place where he forged." Heh, Lin Yi's dead for sure now that we've found such a big flaw. Let's wait for a while, wait for him to start forging, then we will sneak attack together. Brother Meng Tong is now a master in the middle stage of Foundation establishment. Together with the few of us, I don't believe that he can escape alive with so many people ganging up on him. Kang Mingming smiled with a confident face. Meng Tong was not in a hurry. He signaled Kang Mingming to let the flying spirit beast land, and ordered, "Don't rush, this is a rare opportunity, we have to make sure that nothing goes wrong. Let's stick to the previous discussion, Murongzhen and I will watch here first. Kang Mingming, you go call Dongfang Badeo and Zhong Pingliang here, we have more people, in case he escapes again." "Okay, I'll go get them now." This time Lin Yi is looking for death, looking for such a narrow cave with no way out, then we five will block the entrance, he won't escape even if he dies. Kang Mingming replied with a smile. Kang Mingming was about to leave. Murongzhen suddenly said, "We can also inform Yuzha and Southern Sky Gate, tell them that Lin Yi is Lin Air. They're not exactly the same kind of people as us, but they're Lin Yi's sworn enemies. Just in case something happens to us, there'll be double insurance." Kang Mingming and Meng Tong looked at each other and nodded. Ha, well said, Lin Yi, today we will see how you die. They immediately split up. After receiving the news from Kang Mingming, Zhong Pingliang suddenly became anxious. From the beginning to the end, he was the one who knew the latest, and these people only came to inform him when he was ready to take action. Now even if he wanted to remind Lin Yi, there was no time and opportunity. Zhong Pingliang lowered his head, and his face seemed to be uncertain. Kang Mingming couldn't help but squint his eyes in doubt. "What? You don't want to go?" "Go. Of course I will go. Such a good opportunity for revenge, how can I not go?" Zhong Pingliang suddenly raised his head and said. Although he couldn't warn Lin Yi in advance, it was better to go than not to go. At worst, he would expose his identity and counterattack. "That's good, you go now and call the old bastard Dongfang Badeo. I will go to the soaring pavilion to greet Yuzha and Southern Sky Gate. I will come back immediately to take you there." Kang Mingming ordered. He immediately rode the flying spirit beast and flew away. Zhong Pingliang responded, but he couldn't help but worry for Lin Yi. During this time, he didn't have much contact with Lin Yi. He didn't know what Lin Yi's strength was now, but these people who were ready to attack him, the strength of this lineup was not simple. Although Zhong Pingliang had absolute confidence in Lin Yi's strength, it was limited to the premise of one-on-one. After all, Lin Yi was just a newcomer. No matter how strong his strength was, there was a limit. In the midst of anxiety, Kang Mingming had gone to the soaring pavilion and returned. He took him and Dongfang Badeo to meet Meng Tong and Murongzhen. All the people were in place. Let's not delay, let's do it. As the one with the highest strength, Meng Tong naturally took the lead and entered the cave. Murongzhen and the others followed behind him in a single file. The safer way was to wait for Yuzhe and Southern Sky Gate. At that time, maybe even a master of the Golden Core stage like Nan Tianba would be there, so it would be safe to deal with Lin Yi. However, after killing people, they usually took the treasures and divided the spoils. After all, they were not on the same side. If they really waited for Nan Tianba, even if there was something good on Lin Yi, they wouldn't have a chance to take it. It was better to hurry up and get rid of Lin Yi before Yuzhe and the others arrived. Anyway, with their strength, as long as there were no accidents, it was more than enough to deal with Lin Yi alone. Even if they couldn't get rid of him, they still had Southern Sky Gate as a backup. Just as Meng Tong and the others stepped into the cave, the tattered king, who had already begun to forge, suddenly changed his expression. Not good, someone came in. How did you know? Lin Yi was startled. The cave was long and narrow. Even with his senses, he was unable to sense the situation at the entrance, let alone the tattered king's strength. Brother Lin, you might not know this, but my master didn't dig this cave just to find a place to rest. Not only is the spiritual qi abundant and the environment is stable, making it suitable for forging weapons, he has also set up formations everywhere. As long as you merge your divine sense with the formations, you'll be able to sense the situation in every corner of the cave, explained the tattered king. Lin Yi came to a realization and asked, who are they? How many are there? There are 5 of them, but I'm not sure who they are. The king of Junk shook his head and said anxiously, this is bad. Now that the forging has begun, it's too late to stop. We can't stop halfway, and we can't be affected in any way. Otherwise, all our efforts will be in vain, and so many precious materials will be wasted. Don't worry, leave them to me. You just need to focus on forging weapons. Lin Yi immediately stood up, patted the tattered king's shoulder to comfort him, and walked toward the entrance of the cave. He didn't know who had come in this time, but at this moment, the arrow was knocked on the bow. No matter how strong the other party was, he had to find a way to resist. Indeed, there were people coming, and the jade pendant began to warn him. At the same time, Meng Tong and the others who had groped their way into the cave were amazed. Chapter 40-51. How did Lin Yi find such a good place? It looks like it's right next to the spirit jade mine. Pay attention to your feet, maybe you can pick up some spirit jades. Meng Tong and the others were amazed, but they slowed down and became more cautious. This place is obviously not something that Lin Yi could create alone. If there's a hidden master hiding here, wouldn't it be? Zhong Pingliang said, following Kang Mingming's train of thought. Zhong Pingliang's words made everyone's faces change. If there really was a master here, then they would have to think twice. However, Kang Mingming's face turned sinister. Master my ass. If there was a master, he would have come out to support Lin Yi. Why are you still hiding? That makes sense. Murongzhen nodded, agreeing. Zhong Pingliang was secretly annoyed that he didn't scare them away. Just when they were feeling suspicious, a voice came from the depths of the cave. I was wondering who it was. I didn't expect it to be you guys. You're really haunting me. Lin Yi. Meng Tong and the others focused their gazes. Seeing that there was no one behind Lin Yi, they all let out sighs of relief and laughed coldly. Or should we call you Lin Yi II? As expected of the rookie king who loves to show off, you still have the guts to show yourself at a time like this. Tell me, should we say that you're impressed, or should we say that you're stupid? Lin Yi wasn't surprised that someone had come out. Since these people were able to find this place, they'd probably already found out who he was. He smiled. I think it's better for you to say that yourselves. You've been through so much in the past, and you still haven't learned your lesson. How dare you come into a cave to block me? Ha, who gave you guys this much courage, this much boldness? This is my courage. Meng Tong harumphed coldly before he even finished his sentence. Without saying a word, his figure suddenly burst forward. In the next moment, his legs carried the power of wind and lightning that could captivate one's mind. The strength of the middle stage of the foundation establishment stage was completely revealed. This kick was determined to succeed, and it went straight for Lin Yi's head. Meng Tong had cultivated the thousand legs technique, and was originally a speed expert. After taking the Meridian heart-shattering pill, his entire personality had changed. His speed was much faster than before, and it was so fast that people could not help but feel that it was strange. Lin Yi was slightly taken aback. He didn't think that Meng Tong's strength would improve this quickly. Against such a sudden and swift 25 forms of thousand kicks, Meng Tong didn't even have time to react. With his current strength, it would be very difficult for him to avoid it. In this narrow cave, the space left for him to move about was too limited. Since he couldn't dodge, he could only face it head-on. Now that he was forced to make a move, how could he block this overbearing 25 styles of thousand kicks? In a hurry, Lin Yi did not advance, but retreated instead. He clenched one hand into a fist, and instantly condensed a fervent and turbulent fist intent. Before the frenzied fire fist was released, the temperature in the entire cave suddenly rose a lot. A suffocating heat wave hit him in the face. Bang! The 25th style of the raging fire fist clashed with the 25th style of the thousand kicks in an instant. The aftermath of the collision of their powerful forces stirred up layers of sand and stones, causing Murong Zhen and the others behind Meng Tong to be covered in dust. This face-to-face. Meng Tong only felt a slight numbness in his leg, and then he was forcefully shaken back. At the same time, Lin Yi, who was opposite him, also shook under the powerful impact of the 25 styles of thousand kicks. The two of them exchanged blows. No one was able to gain the upper hand, and they were actually evenly matched. It's really powerful, but it's a pity. You're still going to die today. Although he didn't succeed in one blow, Meng Tong was already mentally prepared for this. He immediately followed up with an even more ferocious 26 styles of thousand kicks. At the same time, he shouted to the people behind him, "What are you waiting for? Attack together." Hearing Meng Tong's shout, Murong Zhen, who was behind him, hurriedly used a cunning phantom finger to coordinate with Meng Tong's 26 styles of thousand kicks to attack. However, because they were standing in a straight line, Kang Mingming and the others behind him could not coordinate with each other. The cave passage was too narrow. If they attacked together, it was very likely that they would accidentally injure Meng Tong and Murong Zhen before they hit Lin Yi. Even so, Meng Tong had already made up his mind. In his eyes, Lin Yi's strength was at most in the middle stage of the foundation building realm. It was already very difficult for him to face his 26 styles of thousand kicks. It was already very impressive that he could withstand it. On the other hand, Murong Zhen's phantom finger was not very powerful, but it won from a tricky angle. It was a perfect match for the already powerful thousand kicks. As long as it went straight for the vital parts, it would be the straw that broke the camel's back. Lin Yi was not moved. As he quickly gathered an extremely powerful genuine qi in his palms, he sneered disdainfully and said, "You're despicable enough, but you're still too weak. You've all suffered losses in my hands, but you don't learn from your mistakes. You're still so stubborn even when you're about to die." Meng Tong and the others laughed hideously. However, before they could finish laughing, everything came to an abrupt end. Lin Yi suddenly attacked with the 24 styles of the raging fire 8 trigrams palm. The genuine qi that poured out of his palms instantly danced like wild snakes. It directly passed through his opponent's thousand kicks and phantom finger, then turned into a pair of giant palms again. Although it was launched later, it arrived first and hit Meng Tong's chest without any suspense. Puff! Meng Tong spat out a mouthful of blood. Then, like a kite with a broken string, he was sent flying by the palm. Even Murong Zhen and Kong Mingming, who were behind Meng Tong, were caught off guard. They were all hit by the palm, one after another, and they all fell to the ground, looking very embarrassed. How is this possible? I've been suffering for so long, and I'm already an expert in the middle stage of the foundation building realm. How can I still not defeat this kind of country bumpkin? Meng Tong's face was immediately filled with disbelief. His eyes stared at Lin Yi, who was approaching him step by step, and he could not help but murmur. For such a long time, Meng Tong had to suffer the destruction of the meridian heart-shattering pill every day. Being able to quickly improve his strength under such inhuman torture, Meng Tong felt that he had been reborn. He was not an existence that ordinary cultivators like Lin Yi could compare with. It should have been easy for him to defeat Lin Yi at the same level. However, he did not expect the reality to be so cruel. After his strength soared, he was confident that he would win for the first time. He did not even hesitate to ask Murong Zhen to cooperate with him to launch a sneak attack, but in the end, he was knocked down by Lin Yi with one move. His ending was almost the same as before. This was too weird and ironic, right? Chapter 4052. After a pause, Lin Yi glanced at everyone with evil intentions. Speaking of which, have you guys played football before? Why don't we play football? Kong Mingming and the others' eyelids twitched at the same time. Without waiting for them to react, Lin Yi raised his leg and kicked Meng Tong, mercilessly sending him flying several meters back. Meng Tong, who had lost his soul, didn't even have the strength to make a proper movement to resist. This time, not only was Meng Tong at the front unlucky, but even Murong Zhen and the others, who hadn't reacted in time, suffered with him. After one kick, another followed. Lin Yi treated Meng Tong like a football and kicked him out of the cave. Murong Zhen, Kang Xiaoming, and the others were in an even worse state. Not only did they have to piss their pants, but they also couldn't escape the fate of being used as a human shield. Although they weren't injured directly, they all had bruises all over their faces. What the fuck, this was football? After being toyed with by Lin Yi, Kong Mingming and the others wanted to die. They wanted to fight to the death several times, but Lin Yi controlled the rhythm and didn't give them a chance to stand up. In such a narrow passage, if they were to fall, fighting to the death would be wishful thinking. Among them, only Zhong Pingliang, who was at the back, escaped. Not only did he not suffer because of Lin Yi's intentional care, but he also deliberately blocked the escape route of the people in front of him. Without a trace, Lin Yi wouldn't have the chance to kick them so happily otherwise. After being kicked out of the cave, not only Meng Tong, but also Kong Mingming and the others couldn't stand up anymore. Not to mention fighting Lin Yi, even if they wanted to run, Lin Yi wouldn't give them the chance. Lin Yi looked around and said lightly, "In the wilderness, there's no one around. It's a good place to hide a corpse, don't you think?" Kang Xiaoming and the others shivered in fright. They came here with only one goal in mind, to kill Lin Yi. They never thought that with so many of them, they would end up in a situation where Lin Yi could do whatever he wanted. You! How dare you! Do you know what the crime is for newbies to kill each other? Kang Mingming and the others quickly said. Lin Yi shook his head indifferently and smiled. "I don't know, but no one will find out anyway. Since you came to kill me, I'll kill you instead. There should be nothing to complain about, right? Everyone is an adult. We should be open-minded and reasonable. Don't you think so?" As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Yi was about to make his move. They'd been hindering him time and time again, and he really wanted to kill these people. Especially with Meng Tong's shocking rate of growth, if he continued to let them live, there would be no end to their troubles. He might as well go all the way. He might as well kill them all. Anyway, there was no one else here. After killing them and burying their bodies, no one would know. Even if the law enforcement hall investigated later, they wouldn't directly find Lin Yi. The risk was not great. One by one. Let's start with you, Great Deacon Kong. Murderous intent was revealed. Lin Yi walked slowly to Kong Ming, which really scared Kong Ming so much that he almost peed his pants. Dongfang Badeo was also scared. He shouldn't have come. From the beginning to the end, he had to be buried with them. It was really bad luck. Watching Lin Yi's hand coming to his neck, Kong Ming was scared to retreat on the ground. After rolling and crawling away for a few feet, he had an idea and shouted, "Lin Yi, don't be arrogant. We came here to find you. There are other people who know. He is coming. If you dare to kill us, you can't escape punishment yourself. At that time, you will have to be buried with us." After listening to this, Lin Yi couldn't help but frown. He noticed that Zhong Pingliang was also secretly nodding to himself. If no one knew, he could kill them here. But now, if he killed these people, he would have to be buried with them. There was no way. Seeing Lin Yi's murderous intent finally converged, Kong Ming quickly gritted his teeth and rolled up. He didn't dare to say any more nonsense to stimulate Lin Yi. Before the other party changed his mind, he quickly sat on the flying spirit beast not far away and prepared to leave. With Kong Ming taking the lead, other people such as Murong Zhen and others also followed suit. They took Meng Tong, who was scared out of his wits, and hurriedly climbed on the flying spirit beast to escape. Seeing these people fleeing in panic, Lin Yi could only stop, although he was unwilling. Otherwise, if he really killed these people, he would be happy, but he would have to pay with his life. At that time, even if Shanghai Tianhua came forward, he might not be able to save him. Inexplicably, these people know the place where I forge. It's not a big trouble. Lin Yi had a headache. Due to the use of many rare materials, there weren't many precedents that could be used as reference. Even the king of junk couldn't be sure how long this forging would take. According to his past experience, it wouldn't be a short time. If Kong Ming and the others came back to wreak havoc, he couldn't let his guard down. The only good news was that these people's backers were either dead or missing. If they wanted to face Lin Yi with their own strength, they would only end up like today. They were purely looking for trouble, so there was no need to worry too much about it. At that moment, a few whistling sounds came from above. Then, 3 figures descended from the sky and appeared in front of Lin Yi with unfriendly expressions. They were Nan Tianba, Nan Tianmen, and Yu Zhe. "Second Lin, we've finally caught you. My first and second martial uncles are here, let's see how you're going to escape." Wahahaha. Yu Zhe laughed arrogantly. Previously, when they received Kong Ming's report, they didn't believe it. After the incident at the extreme North Island, although they hated Lin Yi, they didn't believe that Lin Yi was second Lin. In comparison, Kong Ming was more suspicious. But now, Lin second was standing right in front of them. It didn't matter who his other identity was. All they needed to know was that Lin second was the killer of their third brother, Nan Tianyong, and that Lin second had the star ink stone on him. Seeing the 3 people descending from the sky, Lin Yi was shocked. Previously, Kong Ming said that someone knew they were here, but he didn't think that the people who knew were these 3 enemies. This matter was serious. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.